Well, hello and welcome in once again to JW World News. Friends, what we try to do here is bring you right up to speed and what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, my name's Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And friends, I have to tell you, and I tell you every Saturday night, right? We got lots of apostates up here. So we're looking forward to our convention that's coming up in August. And I hope you can make it. In fact, ask for your tickets. I'm going to show you the tickets that I've been sending out, give you an idea what they look like. But if you'd like to come to the convention, by all means, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I will send you a ticket. And this is what the tickets look like. There you have it right there. Still alive in 2025. You can see it right on your screen. That's what your ticket will look like. It's going to be August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2025. That's coming up in about 62 days. So you still have time to plan. So by all means, come up here to Boston. My goodness, you will fall in love with it. I was just out in the Midwest, and how beautiful it was when I got back into New England. Boy, the greenery, everything is so green and beautiful, and blue skies, and coming through the Berkshire Mountains out in western Massachusetts. It was beautiful. You'll love it. So try to make it up and have your vacation up here. We got a lot of things going on in Boston. We got the beaches, we got the mountains up in New Hampshire, and we have the Six Screens is here, and that convention is going to be really, really good. So, in fact, notice that ticket. See, that ticket has an octopus on the beach. A woman is going to be going to get attacked by the tentacles of the octopus, which is the Watchtower. But notice on the right-hand bottom corner, you'll see a number. Now, that is number 28, where we're just about up to 300 tickets now. So we want to keep emphasizing to you, if you want to sit in the main auditorium at this ex-Jehovah's Witness convention, write me as soon as you can, and I will make sure that you get in, because we only have room for about 300 people in the main auditorium. So by all means, give it a shot. See if you can't get in that main auditorium. We do have an auxiliary room next to it. You'll still be able to hear it, but if you want the main auditorium, by all means, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. Oh, we are going to have a blast. We get some really good speakers. I'm not going to go into it, but on the bottom of the Facebook and on YouTube, you'll see something scrolling across the bottom. That's our website, Six Screens of the Watchtower. So what you can do is get on that website on Trending Now. It'll be the home page. Check it out. It talks all about the convention, who's going to be giving talks. We still have a lot of talks to be given. So if you have a real story of being touched by the tentacles, a real story of abuse in the Watchtower, well, by all means, write to me, and we'll give you time to have a talk and talk about how you really have been affected by the Watchtower organization. All right. So, and by the way, too, there is a movie. I didn't mention that. I think most people know it by now, but they're actually filming an international film. They're going to be there. They're sending a crew from Spain. There's an international film that's going to be all about Jehovah's Witnesses and all about the ex-witness movement. And if you have an opportunity, they would love to talk to you at the convention if you come. They'd like to have you in the movie, the documentary about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they'd like to hear your story. So if you'd like to talk and be in that film, again, email me at Six Screens. Actually, I'll give you this one. It's better. jwworldnews@gmail.com. All right. So let's take the ticket off. And there it is. So try to make it up. We will be playing the duck game later on tonight, too. So maybe you can participate in that. And if you do, you can win some prizes. Well, we got some books here I want to give away. Nathan Natus, you know him from JWN. Excuse me, folks. There's a lot of pine trees in my backyard, and I think I'm allergic to pine needles. I'm not kidding. My voice is really, really graspy tonight, I think, because of the pollen. So bear with me, please. But we have this book. Thank you, Nathan Natus. His name is Jim Hill. Nathan Natus is the name he uses on JWN, and he posts on there. He's a great guy, and he sends us these books. Millions Now Living Will Never Die. These are Watchtower publications that have been reprinted. Here's one here. This book here is quite fascinating. Color and Character. This is Watchtower. Well, actually, this is a tabulation of items or articles from the Golden Age dealing with color, and how the Watchtower one time said that colors actually have more meaning than we think. Certain colors create energy, and they get into all this pseudoscience. So we have that book. Plus, we have others. And if you would like to win one of these books, if you play the duck game later on and you get 5 points, you can win one of these books, and I'll mail it to you. All right, so let's take a look and see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Before I do that, though, let me just check a couple of things. All right. So anyways, I'm glad you're with us. I'm glad you want to share your Saturday night with us. I really mean that. And we have so many regular people that come in every Saturday night, and thank you for doing that and spending your time here at the 6 Screens. This is where ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk. There's no question about it. We have people call in from all over the world every Saturday night, and maybe tonight we'll get some new ones calling in as well. In the last few weeks, 2 weeks ago, we had 6 new people call in. Last week, I believe we had 3 or 4. So every week we're getting new ones calling in. So if you can muster up the courage and you like to come in and talk on the program, you can see the number right there on YouTube and on Facebook. So what I'm thinking here, and I got thinking a lot about the last couple of days, the Middle East is now in turmoil. And we know the governing body, they're going to use this turmoil to spread fear among the sheep, that is among the Jehovah's Witnesses. And just like they did back in COVID, friends, this stuff never ends. And so now they're telling the witnesses, get your go bags ready. So, I've often said, where are they going? Where are the witnesses going? The organization numerous times has said, get your go bags ready. Well, where are they going to go? So they step out of their house. They're going to be out in the driveways with their go bags. And where do they go? And what do they do? Well, maybe you've been wondering about that too. So I imagine while they're standing in the driveway with their go bags, they're going to have to ask or call the elders and ask them, what should we do, Mr. Elder? Where do we go now? We're leaving our house, but where do you want us to go? So the governing body does not want anybody to know what is happening in this organization. But the governing body is the ones that really are telling the people to get their go bags. But right now, the governing body is really not doing a great job. We know that. And everybody knows it too. Even the witnesses know it. If you look at the JW world and you see all the witnesses that are leaving, we know the organization is crumbling. It's not growing. And you know what? The governing body knows it too. They know the organization is dying. And the governing body keeps saying that they're growing and they're very vibrant. Yeah, that's what the governing body keeps saying. The governing body is actually lying. And, we said it before. I have no problem saying it. I don't mind saying on here. They can, they can sue me if they want. But the governing body is lying. All these things they're saying about the exponential growth, all the things they're saying about how Jehovah's Chariots on the move, it's not growing, friends. The information that is available to many people right now shows the organization is in decline. Jehovah's Witness cult is in decline, and the governing body does not want anyone to know this is happening. Yes, they've been doing this now for numerous years. It's in decline. And how can I say that? I just want you to put your business thinking caps on here. I just want you to think about something. How do we know the governing body is in decline? Well, one thing that got me thinking, the total number of baptized publishers globally, they're not reporting these things. Give us the total number of baptized publishers globally. They're not reporting it. And how about the number of kingdom halls globally? They're not reporting it because the kingdom halls are dwindling. And how about the number of circuits globally? How about the circuits? Remember how the circuits used to work? Well, they're breaking them up so that they're adding more circuits together to make it look like there's more people. So they're not really telling us how many circuits there are. These are things that if you were an accountant and you were going to try to keep the books straight and clean, not cook the books like the Watchtower is doing, you'd have to know these numbers. In governing body, they're not really giving us the total donations and the financial holdings. They're really not. The governing body will not do that. So these are things that, they can talk a good game. They can say they're growing, they're doing great, but none of these numbers are public. So true transparency would mean if it was, as we know it's true, but if they said it was true, the organization would go downhill very, very quick. It's in decline. And, one thing that would also be good if the governing body would do, how about report on how much they're spending on legal fees and settlements? Hey, if this was a real Christian organization, don't you think they would do that? Don't you think they would really report on how much legal fees are going out? Transparency about where the donations are going would be helpful. They don't share it. I mean, they're not going to share it with me, being an apostate. They're not going to share it with you. But why can't they share it with the Jehovah's Witnesses? Why can't they get up and give a report? I mean, that's what a real Christian organization would do, not the Watchtower. The Watchtower organization will never admit the organization is near collapse and it's right around the corner. They will never, ever admit that. It's very much like businesses. They don't want to tell you when they're near collapse. They want to keep the doors open and raise as much money as they possibly can. So anything negative about the Watchtower, they'll say you hear this from the apostate information. But anything negative you will never hear. How long you been a Jehovah's Witness? I mean, you know darn well what I'm saying. Have you ever heard the governing body or the Watchtower organization say anything negative about themselves? Never. I never remember them. Hey, even for them to admit that they made a mistake, they can't even come out and say that. They can't say, gee, brothers and sisters, we made a mistake in 1975. We really did. We miscalculated. They would never say that. They will lie through the teeth and tell people that they made it up. They never really endorsed it. So, this is what goes on in the Jehovah's Witness world. And another thing that confirms to me that the Jehovah's Witness right now organization is in a train wreck. It's a slow motion train wreck. Just if you stop and think about it, we all see the direction the organization is heading in. We see them making all kinds of changes. And even for the governing body, if you don't think the governing body, the Watchtower organization is in decline, and I say this every week on here, I bring this up, why would they have to make such a stupid statement in 3 Watchtower publications that I have come to grips with and saying and telling the people that you're going to hear things that may not seem logical from a human standpoint, but just believe it. I mean, if you were...
That was another reason for me to leave, of all the reasons that you know about. And to their credit, when Katrina happened, they did send people into that arena to find their own people. But after that, when there were disasters, we were on our own. And I really feel like they dropped the ball, in 2019 with the health issue. And, if I've got a go-bag packed, it might go to Tewksbury to an XJW convention. But I'm not going to trust men in New York that don't have families, don't have responsibilities, to tell me in a state far away what I'm supposed to do.
Well, if they had total control over you, one time the Watchtower had control over all of us, Pixie. We did exactly what they told us to do.
Oh, we did, but past performance is indicative of future performance. And with these last few disasters, they haven't really come to help their own people.
No. Well, we're going to get a little bit into that tonight as well, Pixie. But the Watchtower, and all of us that hung around it for many years as we have, we picked up on their tactics. We picked up on their little bag of tricks and how they fool people. But one thing, and I'm sure everyone on this program will agree with me tonight, no matter what happens in the world, no matter what happens in the Watchtower organization, they always spin it into something positive. They'll always spin it into, if it's a bad thing happening, oh, we're losing members, oh, we have problems with our branch in Europe. Whatever happens, it's persecution from Satan and the apostates. And it's crazy.
Well, I've heard secular people this last week in editorials use the Armageddon word, which the witnesses should have copywritten. But now with the world on fire in the Middle East, they're not taking any position. And you'd think if they wanted to rake in followers and do-re-mi, they would, get on a podium and have a lecture about that. Because that was their stock and trade for years. So I'm just more confused than ever about their corporate branding, I guess we call it.
Well, I'll tell you, they're rebranding as we speak. They're grasping for straws. They're trying to do everything they can to make it look like, wow, we are Jehovah's organization. We are growing. But Pixie, there's I'm also coming across so much information here concerning Jehovah's Witness elders. So many elders right now are leaving, and it's somewhat the governing body would look at it as being shocking. I'm looking at it as being a great thing, but they're scratching their heads and they're realizing tons and tons of elders are packing their bags. And they're finding the hidden truth in the Watchtower. They are finding that, yes, they've been lied to. These once devoted elders, leaders in the congregation, they're walking away. Now, many of them are doing it in silence. They're not really saying anything right now, but many are in pain. Many really are in emotional pain, and many of these elders walking away, they have stories that they were never allowed to share. And I'm going to tell you, in the future, we're going to have so many elders that have left that will be calling into the 6 screens and telling us some of these stories. Now, these elders that are leaving, I'm not going to call them apostates. I'm not. I'm just going to, well, I suppose the organization.
Say they're awake. We used to have a magazine called Awake. Maybe we're supposed to be awake.
Yeah, well, that's right. But, so in other words, I wouldn't call them rebellious, and I wouldn't call them even apostates. As you said, they're waking up, and, they're really, imagine the pressure that they're under, and they're leading the congregation. They're finding all of this out. This is going to be unbelievable. These men, these so-called spirit-appointed brothers that are the elders, these men are now coming to the total realization that this organization, the Watchtower, is not what it was cracked up to be. And now they're feeling that they never really are benefiting. And especially now, they're not benefiting from being part of it. And the work they have to go through, Pixie, it's unreal.
That's always a good question, who benefits? And if you and your family are not benefited, then you can just eloquently walk away. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. It takes time to get over the feelings of betrayal. It takes time to figure out you doing you. It takes time to realize that you can get an extra hour of sleep and have real self-care, which doesn't involve buying anything. It involves sleep and hydration and a hot bath and a family meal and taking care of yourself and your people. And we were all worked nearly to death in that organization.
Well,
especially, as you say, some of the leading men, the elders and ministerial servants and all, sometimes away from their own family needs. They get up at all hours to go and help others. So it takes a while, and you have to learn to be kind to yourself, because we were not taught many of these basics.
Well, I'll tell you, Pixie, these men, these so-called spiritual giants in the congregation, they spent decades, for the Watchtower, many of them, decades preaching, disciplining, defending the organization. And now they're realizing, hey, I've had it. I've had enough. Now, if it was only 100, if it was 200, it was just a couple of thousand, I wouldn't even bring this up. But the reports coming in here to the 6 screens, there's thousands. It could be tens of thousands.
Wait, right?
Yes.
If I may add in a little something, think about the ICE arrest rate. The ICE arrests are also impacting the organization too, and the deportations would mean more foreign language groups and congregations closing down for good.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And I was going to get to that story, but I'm going to bring it into the story about the elders. That's another thing right now that's putting a lot of pressure. I'll tell you what, directors have been going out, I'm sure from the Watchtower, that have been giving instructions on all of these immigrants, illegal immigrants, and the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I'm sure, friends, don't get me wrong here. I'm sure there's illegal immigrants in a lot of the churches, but now we have illegals, and the Watchtower is in a real precarious situation here. I mean, they want you to be honest to the letter of the law.
Florida is one of those hotbed states.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Right, Florida. I mean, there's a lot of witnesses that have immigrants, illegal immigrants, because they settle down there because a lot of them do, crop work and picking crops and whatever. Not all, but many do. So Florida has a lot of them. But now the organization, and this is putting pressure on the elders. The elders don't know what to do. And then, the Watchtower, they can't come out. I mean, can you imagine the Watchtower coming out and participating even in, today, that they had, what did they call it? No King's Day or whatever. But, then the Watchtower can't come out, even though they know they're going to lose a lot of people leaving the congregation. They can't go participate in the protests that they had today. But they're going to lose a lot of people.
But shouldn't they be within the letter of the law?
Well, yeah.
I remember the Bible study sister. She spoke very good Spanish, and she'd learned it as a second language. And she was telling me how many, were, and I love the Spanish language and the Spanish people and the Spanish Americans. But she was saying how many were not legal in the congregations. And, I have legal questions on that too. You know how I look at the law.
Well, that's the predicament, Pixie, the Watchtower is in right now, that they can't come out and say, protect the illegal immigrants we have, the brothers and sisters. They can't do that. Man, they would get in big time trouble. And not only that.
That's where they've always made the error of thinking they had their own government with a pretend word like theocracy, when, we're all living, most of your listeners are living in the United States or whatever nation they live in, they're under that law. And even as a young kid, when I studied government in school, I'm like, what message am I getting here? So most of us, if we were born in, we have a lot of conflicting messages, one from the school and one from the Kingdom Hall, and sometimes from the parents too. But it's like the school and the Kingdom Hall sometimes were contradictory.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. I'm glad you bring that up because that is putting pressure on the elders. Look, nobody wants to be a tattletale. But imagine if you're an elder and you got, you have a whole family of illegals, Jehovah's Witnesses. Do you tattle on them? Come on and get them, ICE. But at the same time, you want to follow the letter of the law. So this is I'm going to talk about some of the other pressures right now that are on the elders as well. But did Troy, New York, I think it's New York, did they want to come in? I'm not sure. But no problem if you don't. But anyways, I just wanted to yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I just wanted to bring up regarding the elders leading. I think another point is worth mentioning is that they know that they're no longer going to be protected. They realize what's going on with the elders in Pennsylvania, elsewhere. They're getting arrested. And even though they're not a part of the child sex situation, they are going along with the society's policy regarding that situation. So they realize they're not going to be protected and that the authorities could come after them. I think that's another reason why they are leaving, because that position, they have a target on their back, quite frankly. If you're a leader in the congregation, an elder, you have a target on your back, because if something occurs in your congregation that you're aware of and you do not tell the authorities and you follow Watchtower's policy, you have a target on your back and the authorities are going to come after you. So I think that's another reason why they're leaving as well, in my opinion.
Well, it's a good opinion. I take that. There's probably 100 reasons, John, why they're leaving. And even another thought along those lines, think about it. Think of all of the PMOs that are seeing what's really going on behind the curtains and all the corruption and the lawsuits. And they're approaching the elders. The elders are getting to hear an earful of this stuff. And, they can't just be oblivious to it. They can't say, well, geez, I had 10 people in the last year come to me and talk about child molestation in the Watchtower and how it's being covered up. They just can't continue to be oblivious to it. Some of this stuff is going to sink through their heads and they start looking into it and saying, oh my God, this is really happening. So that's another thing with all these lawsuits, and these elders are hearing it day in, day out. They're hearing these stories. They can only hide it for so long. And, also, what are they doing about all of these Kingdom Halls being sold off and Kingdom Halls, having less publishers, and they got to close other Kingdom Halls down the area to bring them to that hall to make it look good. They see all of this. They can see all the maneuvering and all the corruption that's taking place in the Watchtower. And but the thing I wanted to really touch on here is maybe a lot of people weren't thinking about this, but some of these Jehovah's Witness elders are really being tapped right now. The organization is realizing that the people are leaving as the elders. Well, maybe the governing body won't tell you about it, but they know it's happening. And the elders see all of these people leaving. They're starting to question it. But also the other factor that's happening with these elders, they're getting hit up for money. They're getting hit up for money. Right now, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're a very poor organization. That is the rank and file. The big guys make big money, but the rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses don't make a lot of money. And from what I'm getting here at the 6 screens, you got many Jehovah's Witness families living in with one another. The elders are seeing this. They don't know what to do. They're being hit up. Oh, Brother Elder, my gas was shut off this week. Brother Elder, I can't afford to put food on the table for my family. A lot of these people in the Kingdom Halls, they're elderly. They don't have a lot of money. They're running out of money. So what do you do? I mean, this is what in the real Christian churches, people get help. They go to church and the church helps them. So in the organization, the Watchtower organization, the Watchtower is not going to help these poor people. So it's incumbent upon the elders to dig into their own pockets and give money to some of these publishers. And they're getting tired of it. But they can see that the rank and file are getting poorer by the minute, because what's happening, all the younger people that are working hard, they're leaving, they're quitting. And who's staying in? All these older people, and they got no money, many of them. And I tell you, I would say that's one of the reasons. A lot of elders are starting to see it, saying, I can't keep it up. I just can't. Go ahead, John.
Yes, and I was going to say that, they follow the directives of the society. They're loyal Jehovah's Witnesses. They're in a leadership capacity. When trouble hits, the society throw them to the wolves. They don't protect them. And they protect themselves. The governing body protects themselves. And anytime the authorities come looking for them, they point to the elders. They throw them to the wolves. So what is the point of being an elder, a ministerial servant? And I think that's really, among the other things that you had mentioned, I think that's the very underlying reason why they are leaving. What is the point of all this? They're not going to protect. It's comparable to those brothers who went to prison during the Vietnam War. They said that you could not serve in the military and you could not do alternative service. So they went to prison. There was one incident where I heard from JT on this program, Critical Thinkers. He gave a very good example about a brother, went to prison for 3 years, and when he came out, after the society had changed their policy, you like to know what they told him? They told him, well, brother, that was your decision. That was your decision to go to prison. You didn't have to go to prison. You could have did a term of service. Now, when he went in, before he went in, the standard, and you know this, Rick, the standard operating procedure is you do not go to the military, nor will you go to alternative service. Couldn't do anything. You had to go to prison. When he comes out, giving his life to Jehovah, think he's following Jehovah, following the society, they turn around and tell him, oh, well, that was your decision, brother. You went to prison, that was your decision. And this is what they do. They make these policies. They don't back you up. When you follow the policies, they do not back you up. They throw you to the wolves. And they say, that's your decision.
Well, that's what they do, John. That's what they do. It's an ugly organization. But the elders, and there's tons of them, thousands of them, tens of thousands that are saying, that's it. Do you realize how many PMO elders there are? But there are also some are saying, that's it. They're walking out cold. But, this idea of all of the pressure and even financial pressure coming upon the elders now, and they have to dig in their own pockets to help people in the congregation. And, they're having trouble themselves. There's things of high cost today. So in Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not really a rich, the rank and file, they're not rich people. They're really not. So what we see here is elders leaving. And, I'm not just making this up. Let me tell you why. We discussed on here 2 weeks ago. In fact, it was in the Watchtower, was a study article, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. And they were saying, and I've never heard this said before, the Watchtower article was telling older people and even younger ones, but trying to even tell older people to try to squirrel a little bit away and for retirement as you're getting older. And because they realize there's a lot of old ones now that can't work like they used to, and they're broke. They're really hurting financially. So that's the first time ever I can remember Watchtower telling people to put some money away for retirement. And I think that's in view of what elders and circuit overseers are reporting back to the Watchtower, saying, we got a lot of poor people, and they're coming to us for money. And what are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? Now, any other church, they would have funds set aside to be able to help the poor people in the church, but not the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I really feel there's something going on here from financial way. Get on the money trail, follow the money. I think it's a big reason why many Jehovah's Witness elders are saying we have had enough. So I'm thinking that this religion, because of its faulty man-made policies, has really put many older Jehovah's Witnesses in a pickle financially. Some are feeling the adverse effects of economy, inflation, and it's difficult for them to even function. Let's take a look. Who else is calling in? If you have a thought, would love to hear from you. Dial in, hit *6, and we can get your thoughts on it as well. But there's other reasons too. There's other reasons too why there's so many elders leaving, and numerous reasons. If they're married, for example, do you know how many people in the organization today who are married, and one of the mates is really questioning this, and the other mate is kind of not? And I'm sure that's happening even with many elders. Maybe their wives are starting to get a little ticked off at all the time their husbands are spending, and they're looking at some of the things online, the apostate stuff, so to speak, and they're telling their husbands, and then finally the husband says, "Honey, you're right, I am leaving." So it's just unreal. It's unbelievable what's happening. So we are seeing a real change, a drastic change. And another reason that I know there's many elders stepping down, I'm putting it into tens of thousands. And the reason why we know that's happening is look at what they're trying to do with the young ones now. Look what they're trying to do. Getting young kids, even as early age of 8 years old, 11 years old, to pass the mics and encouraging them to reach out for ministerial servant. And they need more elders. They need more servants. They're using women in many congregations. There's not even enough elders to go around. So this is not a pipe dream. This is not something I'm just throwing out in the wall and hope it sticks. What I'm telling you here is
Rick,
yes.
I don't know if I can talk or not. Are you there?
I'm here. Yep.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I was raised Catholic, and there was a point that the Catholic Church, you go to a church, very sparse attendance. Now, for some reason, they're booming. I'm not sure. But there's this old saying which applies to elders. There are two great tragedies in life. One is getting what you want, not getting what you want. Another one is getting it. And they got what they wanted. They wanted that title. They wanted to be an elder. I would have never, ever accepted being an elder because I thought it was a lot of blood guilt involved because you make mistakes all the time. Heck, I was making mistakes as a ministerial servant, But the money thing, I had this experience. I'm serious, and I think God led me to these places to see this. The richest elder in the congregation I last went to, I went to Goodwill, and there's his wife in front of me at the line at the checkout. And she's worth at least $5 million. I knew that for a fact. And I found out later it was mostly her money, not her husband's money. He was like an accountant for Baldwin Piano before it got sold to Gibson guitar. But she's arguing about a quarter. Says, "You overcharged me a quarter. I want my quarter." I told the clerk after she walked out, I said, that woman's worth $5 million, And it was just a pathetic display. But this is how witnesses actually are who have money. Oh, no, they're not going to put up with being an elder if they're going to have to pour out their money. Rick, I have a poem that I thought of right after I talked to Anne Marie earlier, And I'm going to read it right now real quick. It's about the governing body. My favorite subject, Rick. Can I do that?
Of course, go ahead.
It's called The Bitter Bastard. He started out hidden and small and not very tall, but his words lit a fuse to demand servitude. I'm the voice of God, he said. Listen to me or be eternally dead. And he meant every word he said. Yes, we listened and we tried to learn, and 30 years later, we still can't discern because he said whatever he said to keep us afraid till we finally were dead. Yes, he was the way, the truth, and the death of us all. But how do I love thee, he says. Let me count the ways while beating us because the master delays. So he shows his face in multiple ways to convince us of his power and praise. And those who resist get his sincere Judas kiss. It's not a mystery. This Antichrist has a clear 150-year history, leaving millions in misery. And now they're becoming bitter bastards for all to see, blaming everyone who left for their self-destructive legacy, those who were not into their failure of a theocracy. I can't read my writing, but that's what I felt about the governing body. They're getting to becoming bitter bastards, and they're lashing out at everybody, even in the hall. You may say I'm paranoid, but I saw it 20 years ago when I left there.
Well,
They're in total misery, Rick.
oh, it's getting worse, King of Dots. It's getting worse, but good poem. I always enjoy
Well, they're
poetry.
going to suffer for their sins. You reap what you sow. And if any one of them continues to hold a position in the organization, then look, it's going to be bad on them. That's all I can say. God is going to make them suffer for their sins. And they're going to take it out on the sheep. They are the evil slave class, in my opinion, because they beat everyone as a whole constantly.
Well, I can't disagree with that. That's exactly true. And it's going to get all organizations, especially cults, they all come to a dramatic, shocking end. If you study the cults, they all do that. Now, what will be the end game of the witnesses? I don't know. Some say,
I want one more thing.
yeah.
I'm going to say this. I saw a little piece on local TV today. The Catholic Charities of Cincinnati were complaining they've been completely cut off by the government funding. And they said they helped 250 illegal immigrants to get settled in our area last year. And they said they didn't have enough money so far this year to help one illegal immigrant. Yeah, Trump is cracking down on the NGOs and all these 501c3s, and it's kind of showing their true colors. As long as they get money from the government, they keep running, and of course they keep giving themselves fat paychecks. I looked this up. I found this in California. Every city has a Salvation Army, and I like the Salvation Army. But every Salvation Army in each individual city in California has its own CEO, and they're all making each one of them several $100,000 a year. Like, what the hell is this? Now, I can't find any proof Watchtower's getting money from the government like the USAID, which he just canceled. But I bet they are. I'd like to find the proof, and it's being cut. And if that funnel of money is being shut down, they're going to be hurting really bad. All the religions are. They're getting money for every illegal immigrant to settle in this country. And it's a good work to some extent, unless they're a criminal, of course. But the money's coming from us. These two groups who have been doing protesting in LA, One got $97 million from Biden just the last 3 months of his term, and the other got $33 million from the state of California. And they're using that. One of them actually has a hotline where to protest, and they pay the protesters about $150 to $200 a day, and they get them together immediately. They're on their cell phone. We need you here. We need you here. We need you here. It's an organized effort, and it's a nonprofit. These groups are nonprofits, and they're protesting all over the country. And I'm telling you, a witness used to say they're going to take away the tax exempt status of the religions. This is what they said in the 70s, and that's when Babylon the Great will fall. Well, guess what? Maybe it's happening. I don't believe that's nothing to do with Babylon the Great, but we can't afford to pay you to do your anti-government work, which is what Watchtower is doing and the Catholic Church is doing. Bringing in people who pretty much live off the tit of the government. What's it costing us? $200 billion a year, and we're going bankrupt. This country's bankrupt, and Watchtower is working against this country. And the new Pope, guess what? He reiterated what the last Pope said. We want open borders worldwide. Well, make your best guesstimation of what would that do to countries that are wealthier. It's the same way it's going to happen with elders in these kingdom halls. They'll go broke trying to keep this going. And I would suspect, like you said, Rick, a lot of these elders will step down. They will just say, enough is enough. And that's my rant for tonight, Rick.
Well, that's quite a rant, but thank you for the poetry. And enough is enough. And many elders are doing it. I'm not talking about, a few hundred. I'm talking about tens of thousands. Tens of thousands of elders are stepping down. And, the thing is, right now, the Watchtower organization, they're reconstructing the organization. They're really trying to make some drastic changes. And what I see lately here as I do research and study what's going on behind the curtains, the Watchtower in this reconstructing mode is doing everything they can to attract younger people. They need younger people. They realize that, man, we got to get these people because all the ones that have been around for a while, they're getting very, very old. And so their whole plan right now, get as many young ones as they can. We talked about it in the earlier segment. Even 8-year-old kids are passing mics. 11-year-old kids are being encouraged to be ministerial servants. Now, they're not going to make them a servant at 11, but boy, they're going to prune them, and they're going to get them to be a servant as soon as they possibly can when they show enough maturity. But anyways, we know this is a doomsday cult. We know that in order for it to survive, people are finding out too much. The internet is the great equalizer. For the Watchtower to continue to survive, it's got to make some drastic changes. It's got to do a lot of restructuring. Now, we know there's so many Jehovah's Witnesses that are getting older, the baby boomers. They were the ones that really supported this organization for many years. And now Watchtower, as well as we're understanding and coming to grips with, they are letting so many people go in Bethl. They don't call it a layoff. They don't call it a layoff at all. But there's a lot of older ones that have just been peep-poking along at Bethl. They're now getting rid of them. Anybody over 80, they don't want them. You got to leave. You got to go home. You got to get out of here. Well, where are you going to go? The Watchtower right now, as we speak, they're sending people over 80 years old home. And where are they going? Some of these people don't even have a home. So the Watchtower is saying, well, go to the local congregation that you came from, and God will help you there. Jehovah's going to help you there. Well, why doesn't the Watchtower organization help them? We know the organization is downsizing, but this is a very low thing to do, to take people that have been around for many years, very loyal, working their butts off as a full-time worker at Watchtower, and now they get to be 80 and they get a boot in the rear end. it's time to go, and hopefully it'll be fine. But this is exactly what's going on. And, even abusive corporate companies that have not been known as good companies, at least they do something. They have pension programs, they have 401k plans, and then they do their best knowing that their workers are going to get old and need a little help. Even some companies don't give a lot of help, but there's some help there for them. But these old timers with the Watchtower, I'll tell you, they're being put out to pasture. They are not going to be in a good position. And we all know it. We know many circuit overseers that, they got old, and now a circuit overseer can't be over 72, whether he's physically healthy or not. They get rid of him. And, a lot of these circuit overseers and people who are being...
I think a lot of them probably thought it was like a monastery contract that they would be taken care of till their personal last day.
You're right, Pixie. In fact, even here, right about a mile from where I live, is what they call an Oblate Home. It's for Catholic priests that got old and can't serve as priests any longer. They have a home for them, hundreds of them here. And that's where they put all the older priests to live. They give them a home. But here we have the Watchtower taking people. I know of one man, not personally, but a friend of mine who was at Bethl knows an older couple there. They're now in their 80s, are getting very close to it, late 70s at least. And they work in a very high department, and they are PMOs. They don't believe the Watchtower. But my friend tells me that they can't leave because they have nowhere to go. Well, what do you do when you have nothing? You have no Social Security, you have no money, you have no home, and boy, you'd be really, you'd really be biting your nails. What's going to happen to me and my wife? We're going to get, go back to the congregation. Those people don't even know us anymore. A lot of the people died. So what are you going to go back and be a burden on them? What a predicament. But the Watchtower doesn't give a darn at all. In other words, out of sight, out of mind. But I got thinking that it certainly is something that is not fair. In fact, there's even one story we brought up numerous times here on the 6 screens, and it was an old man. He was about 80, and they didn't want him at Watchtower anymore. And he had nowhere to go. He had no family. He had no place to go. And he was there for so long. I mean, even the congregation he came from would not be the same. So he didn't know what to do. But what he did, and we all talked about it here, it's a true story. The old poor guy went out and sat on a bench, and he froze to death at night. And
It's a true story. It was told to me. And what happened was he'd been part of the printing and ink department, and he expressed a different opinion.
Yep.
And they pushed him out with nothing, and he died on the bench.
Well, it's a sad thing. In fact, we had Marcus Vaughn. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness. He's done YouTube videos. And about 5 or 6 years ago, Marcus came on our 6 screens, and he was at Bethl. And of course, he wasn't old at this time. He's probably in his 30s. But, the Watchtower said they didn't need him anymore. So go back to where he came from. So, he's going back to the congregation. He's doing well now, by the way. He got married. He's doing well, from what I understand. But when he left Bethl, what? So what do you really do? So
they didn't even give Marcus gas money or $20 severance to get a bus or anything. I mean, he's just one story. You'd think they would at least have an envelope of money that would get brother and sister Old back to Wisconsin or something.
You would think that, Pixie, but even Marcus, in fact, it got me really laughing when he came on because it was so evil. It was actually humorous to some degree that they would do this. But he went down to there was a store. He went down to the store. They have like a little sandwich shop, and they made him a sandwich, but you have to pay for it. So the sandwich and the chips and the Coke, whatever at the time, came to, I don't know, I think it was like $2.75 or something. And it was a few years back. So anyways, we didn't even have the money for that. So they cut him loose. He had to get back to where he came from. and then they sent him a bill for $275. Jeez.
I guess that's how the rich get rich.
Jeez.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us. Yep.
No, this is Zachary. I remember when he came on, and I remember he was in that one of those downsizing situations. He was being sent home, and he said that one night, I guess they were Bethl Elders, they came to his room and they asked him where his car was parked. And he told them, and they started packing up his stuff and they took it out to the car. He said he had been given some, he knew for a couple of weeks, but he was trying to get work. He was trying to find work. But they came and packed up his stuff and took it out to his, put it in hoppers and took it out to his car. And I can't get over that. Still.
It is heinous. It's evil.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know. You were a Bethelite, Zachary, but I mean,
Yes.
you weren't treated badly like that, were you ever?
No, I don't have that kind of an experience. I do know it could be pretty cold. I was in when I first went, I was in a 5-man room, and one of the roommates, we had a suite of rooms, and one of them, he was from California. He didn't seem to fit in with in Bethl life, and he was in arguments with the roommates, and with the other three, and even me. And one day, they called us to the Bethl office. I got to work, and I got a phone call. Please report to the Bethl office. And I went to the Bethl office, and there were two brothers in personnel, and they were interviewing each of the roommates, and it didn't go well for him. They bought a. I think they sent him home. They sent him home, but his parents in California didn't want him to come back there, so they found witness relatives in Pennsylvania, and he got sent there. But this thing you said about people who are in their 80s getting sent out of Bethl, that's breaking my heart.
Yeah, well, there's an ongoing. Well, right now, Zachary, the information I'm getting is this is what's going on. Now, I don't know if there's hundreds over 80 there, but those that are 80, they're letting them go.
That's horrible, because they haven't worked for themselves. They haven't built anything up, and they're old enough to Social Security, and that Social Security for a Bethelite who's been there until they're in their 80s, it's not going to be significant at all. They can't live. And like you said, you alluded to, the people, the congregation they came from is not there anymore. It might be their name, but the people are all different. They're not the same people.
Well, I'm going to even add some more fire to the situation. Now, the Watchtower. Okay, so you cut these people loose. Now, I'm not going to say there's 100. I don't know the information coming in here. I did not get how many, but let's just say that there's 20 old, 80-year-old people. The Watchtower says, we really can't have you here anymore. So now here's what a loving organization would do. They would say, brother and sister, go back. We'll make arrangements for you. You will call the congregation. They'll be able to help you. They'll be able to work with you. And they would follow up. A good organization, a good company even, a good person would follow up on an old person that, they kind of gave the boot to. And but they're not going to, follow up. So they send the brother or the sister from, New York, Warwick. They sent them to Podunk, Iowa, and go to the congregation in Podunk, and then follow up on you, make sure you're doing good, make sure you're being taken care of, making sure your health issues are good, you're getting to the doctor. They won't even check anything like that. They leave these poor people hanging. And in fact, there was one case. In fact, I remember a person calling in here one night and talking about it. And it was an older woman in the congregation that came there. I don't know if she was from Bethl or wherever, but she was an older woman, evidently from Bethl. And she needed some help. And even if she wasn't from Bethl, let's just go, she was asking for the elders for some help. And they told the old woman, here she is, a loyal witness, asking the elders for some help. And they told the old woman that, the first thing you have to do is go to your family and ask them. And she says, well, they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. My family are just worldly people. Well, they said you have to go to them first and ask them for the help before we can help you. How heinous is that? And you hear these type of stories, Zach, and you say, "Come on, yes."
That's horrible. Yeah.
Well, in fact, just I got a rundown here. In fact, I'm gonna just give people an idea. I'm not just sitting here blowing wind here tonight, because I want to tell you something. Jehovah's organization, Jehovah's Witnesses, are some of the poor, in fact, the poorest of about 30 different. Well, maybe not 30, but I'd say, let me hold on, 1, 2. I'd say we have probably 30, 25, 30 religions, and I got a chart here in front of me, and I'm looking at it on what religions people have the most money, and what religions people have the least money. Well, the ones with the most money, I think, Jack, you probably could guess that, but the Jewish religion has the richest people. For example, they have the most percentage. They have 44% of Jewish people make over $100,000 or more. Yeah, that's a fact. Now, in the Jehovah's Witness, just to give you, a comparison here, in the Jehovah's Witness religion, what percentage, Zachary, would you say make over $100,000? And you almost need that to survive today. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe 1%.
4%. 4%. But I was just reading the other day, the most expensive state, in other words, the most income you have to survive in this state I'm going to give you the most expensive state to live in. What would you think it is? In other words, you need 126,000, I think it was, to live. One person, 120. No, not Illinois. Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was surprised. You need in where I live. I live in Massachusetts, and that's the second highest. You need over $120,000 to live here. A year. Now I'm looking at this chart, and I'm looking at some of the richest religions. The Jewish religion has the most. Those people make the most money, and the one on the bottom is the Jehovah's Witnesses. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's got to be
4% that you mentioned.
Yeah.
The 4% who earn over 100,000. They're probably not the born-ins. They're probably people who came in later in life.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean? After they got their education and stuff together, they came in to the witnesses.
More than likely. And then I'm all.
Converted. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Then I'm also looking at this chart here right now. So I'm looking at look at $30,000 a year. That'd be hard. You'd be eating Roman noodles most of the time, but $30,000 a year, that wouldn't get you too far in today's modern society. But in fact, I'm looking down here. What percentage of Jehovah's Witnesses would you say make $30,000 a year or under? What percentage?
That's kind of hard. 50%.
Wow, you came very close. 48%. Now,
48%.
48%, according to the chart I've got at. Let me take a look here. All right. Okay, so this chart, it's not right up to date. It goes back to 2015, but you get an idea. It's an old chart I have. I should have probably mentioned that at first. I'm sure it's up a little bit, but I'm sure the ratios here are pretty much the same. So, it's sad. It's really sad. This organization, they're jealous of the Mormons. They really are. The Mormon people, they make. Let me see if they're on the chart here. Let me see if I can find them. Okay, 7th. Okay, all right. Well, there you go. Okay, well, 15% of Mormons make $100,000 or more a year. So they're quite a bit. That's more than 4% of Jehovah's Witnesses. But it's a fascinating chart. But the reason why I even bring it up, the reason why it should be mentioned, is the Jehovah's Witnesses. There's no reason why Jehovah's Witnesses rank and file members should be poor. And I thought about this years ago. Look at the training. Look at the training. You'd go to school. They'd teach you how to speak. They could teach you how to be a salesperson. I mean, every Jehovah's Witness is a salesperson. They go door to door. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. And yet, why is it Jehovah's Witnesses make such little money? Because the organization doesn't let them flap their wings. Jeez, they don't go to school, don't get a higher education, don't get a good career. And look at what these guys have done. And the Watchtower could have really benefited. I don't think that many people would have left the Jehovah's Witnesses if they had a good career. I really don't. I think it would be easier for them. They could probably put more time in for the organization. I never really understood that. Well, why would you tell us? No, maybe to school because you'd study about religion, but I can see that part of it. But I can't see an organization telling their people, don't reach out for a good career. And they used to always use that example. If you reach out for a better job in this system, that would be like rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. That's a crappy illustration, Jeez.
Hey, go to Farron. Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rick.
Yeah.
Farron, vice member.
Go with Mehmet. Hold on. Go with I think that's Stefan. I think Stefan. Go ahead, Stefan.
I just wanted to say two things very quickly about these layoffs in Bethel. When I was a younger person, I remember so many talks. They were trying to get young people to come to Bethel. And one of the things that the brother said, in his talk, he used an illustration of some gentleman who had been working decades at some job. And the day before he was set to retire, they called him in and they laid him off so that he wouldn't get his retirement. Now that I'm an older person, I know what a loader, what that is. But this is the illustration. And then he ended the talk by saying, Jehovah doesn't lay off. And if anybody wants to argue that, you can go to JT and Lady C, and he mentions the same exact story. And then we hear how they're just throwing people out of Bethel. Secondly, we had a circuit overseer. He had to be in his 80s. He had inoperable cancer. And we were one of the last congregations that he started before he passed. Maybe just a few weeks after he passed, I kept seeing his now widow at our Kingdom Hall. And so I asked one of the elders, her name was Sister Hawkins. I said, why is Sister Hawkins here? And he said, well, she's just trying to find, some place where she can go where, she can be taken care of. And I said to him, I said, wait a minute. I said, are you telling me that she's not being taken care of at Bethel? A circuit overseer's wife who has got to be in her 80s, who just left her husband, is now trying to find somebody that will take care of her after having many decades of quote-unquote faithful service to Jehovah in this organization. And he just looked at me and he realized what he said. Then he changed it. Well, see, maybe she doesn't want to, and I don't know. And and then he just kind of took off the reins because he realized what he said. So if anybody is listening, especially if you're a young person, please do not believe this propaganda that this organization is shooting, that they need young people and Jehovah's going to take care of you and you go there. They're not going to. You're going to be just like the Bethelites that they laid off right now. These same people that were laid off right now heard that same sales pitch 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. These people have spent their whole lives there and got nothing for it. Please don't be another victim of Watchtower. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Stefan. We appreciate that story. Thank you for telling us that. Maverick, did you want to come in from London? Go ahead.
Yep. Hi, Rick. Yeah. Thanks. It's a great point that Stefan made. I was just thinking about what you said, Rick, about why it's changed, why we have a culture in the organisation of not investing in ourselves and so on. But I just thought it's not a profound thought, but I thought maybe this is a bearing on it. That traditionally it started as a publishing company. Books, we had to buy the books and sell the books door to door in the guise of voluntary donations and so on. But we were a book publishing company. We were publishers, right? And now it's shifted to real estate. So the business model's changed. And so, and think about it, I thought they encouraged us. I mean, I got baptized just turning 17 years old. I was baptized. So for me, they took pretty much your vital energy where you should be investing in your own future and foundations, looking at getting a home for yourself, so on, and saving and deposits and so on. I was pioneering. So they didn't mind at that point your 20s and your 30s or even your 40s being invested in just going and working for the organization for nothing. But now that's not working anymore. So for me, I think one of the biggest reasons why, obviously, we're much poorer than we were. I mean, we're not there anymore, but it's left a legacy for most of us of, not being properly prepared for modern 2025 life is because, the organization is not interested in now what age you are because they're not getting the same money coming in at the door, maybe possibly, as they used to with book selling. So the real estate is where they're getting their money from. So maybe, I don't know if it has a bearing in it, but I think they're definitely shifted into that direction. And so it's left now, they still want the youth, but not in the same way, So, they don't mind maybe now encouraging some people to sort of look at the things very, very sheepishly. They're saying, well, think about your future and so on. But it's still the same baloney as we know. I don't know. I just thought that there is a shift in their focus so that the vital energy that we have is that we gave in our 20s and our 30s is not as maybe crucial as it used to be. That's my theory anyway.
Well, it's a good theory. It really is, Maverick. And thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for coming in and talking on the Six Screens. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Maverick. Yeah, we've got, friends, I have to tell you, I mean, we are really looking at an organization that is an unfair, but I don't have to tell you that. We all know it's unfair. It's just totally unfair. And how they get away with it, that's what really, I mean, you could lose sleep thinking about it. I do sometimes. How can this organization possibly do the things they do and get away with it? Jeez, I'll tell you, it's like, I can't, it's like a mystery to me. How can they do it? How can they get people? I mean, just things on the surface, I'm thinking. How can they get people to get up Saturday morning, out of bed? We all did it. You work all week. You like to have a day off. Saturday's a nice day to have off. And all of a sudden, well, come on, honey. Come on, kids. Got to go on service. Boy, oh boy. I mean, but we did it. And we didn't even really think about it. We didn't question it. But boy, they pull it off flawlessly. And how is it that we would have to get to the meetings? And boy, we better be there. And how many listening into this audience tonight, if you missed a meeting, did you really feel good? I mean, they said, gee, I'm going to stay home tonight. I think I'll watch a movie or have some popcorn, relax. But, did you really feel good all the time you were trying to relax? You're thinking, geez, what would happen if Armageddon came tonight? What are the brothers and sisters going to think of me? You couldn't even relax. Or if you took a trip during the summer, they wanted you to go to the convention, during your vacation. Give us a break. At what point, can a person relax? But they pull it off flawlessly. Boy, I'll tell you what, it's mind control at its best. It has to be. I just can't believe that people could be so loyal to an organization that they know very little about. But I was.
Thing that they do, these brothers and sisters in their 80s, they didn't have any offspring. So where would they go back to unless there was a younger sister or younger brother, a sibling, a fleshly sibling? They wouldn't have any family to go back to.
Well, that's exactly right. And, really stop and think about it. If you're in Bethel and you're an older person now and you've been there for 40, 50, 60 years, it's not the same. You just can't go back to where you came from. A lot of your relatives are dead. Congregations have been sold off. That would give a person panic attacks. Geez, you're 80 years old. Okay, Sister Smith, you've been with us all these years. Thank you for working with us, but we got to let you go home now. Well, where am I going?
Also, if they apply to get Medicaid disability, for instance, which perhaps at their age and stage they would have, it takes about 2 years to get an apartment for the people that apply for that. I know this because a friend of mine just retired for 30 years. She handed out the food cards, SNAP cards and things. That was her federal job. So it takes about 2 years for this imaginary couple to get their apartment. They might not even live that long if they're living in their car. This is really a problem. And then when I was doing care, my little cottage is about the size of a double wide trailer. And, I had it set up to do care. And the sister had the audacity to say, oh, well, this young sister is leaving and she's moving 3,000 miles away. She can move in with you, right? I said, no, she absolutely can't. There's not a bed here for her, and I have to focus on care. I was up all night sometimes. She wasn't going to come here and help with care. And she ultimately married a very wealthy brother, and that's great for her. But they don't think about one's personal safety or individual space, or they really don't care about us. That's like the Michael Jackson song, They Don't Care About Us. I think he knew some things.
Pixie, you got me thinking. And of course, doing this program for as long as I have, I've heard so many things. But many, many people have heard me talk about the 1969 Peace on Earth Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses in New York City at Yankee Stadium. I was there. Maybe many people listening to this program were there as well. But I can remember there was 120,000 people at Yankee Stadium. It was packed. And they had a campground. People would be in the parking lot. It was all muddy and gucky and gooey, and people were setting up tents and camping out there. And it was unbelievably crowded. But the point I wanted to bring out was, we were sitting in, it was so hot. And it's like 8-day convention from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. And then we had a little baby at the time. And I'm going, oh, this is brutal. But you're sitting there, you're trying to listen to the talks. But then along comes a thunderstorm. And I mean, thundering and lightning, and there's nowhere to go. You can't get under the mezzanine, under the roofed area with the seats over you, because there should be so many people you couldn't move. But we had to stay there during a thunderstorm. Now, would the Watchtower make an announcement? Brothers and sisters, we want you to orderly file out of the seats as a thunderstorm is coming over. There's lightning. Geez, somebody could have been killed, for goodness sakes. But you don't hear announcements like that. And not at that convention. But I had on our program years ago, Dr. Jerry Bergman. He was a psychiatrist for the Watchtower who left. And he wrote the book, Jehovah's Witnesses and the Problem of Mental Illness. But here's what happened, Pigs.
I read his book.
Yeah, no, we got to. Okay, so what happened? He came on the program, and it's in his book too, I believe. I'm not sure though, but he did mention on the program that he was still a witness at the time, and he was at a convention, and there were little babies. There were 3 2 or 3, I believe it was 3 though. There were 3 little babies that died because it was so hot. And the mothers, they had them in the carriage, and the mothers would put a blanket over the babies thinking, you know, the baby's cold, but the baby's hot. And the babies died from heat exhaustion. So Dr. Bergman went to the administrator of the Jehovah's Witness Convention and says, could you please make an announcement? Tell the mothers not to put the blankets on these little babies. It's too hot. And so they said, well, you know, we really don't make public announcements like that. Can you imagine that? I'm not exaggerating one bit, folks. I know you're probably, I'm not. It's true. Yeah. Go ahead. Let's go with Thomas Hodgins. Let's go with Thomas, then we'll go.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let's go with Thomas, then we'll go to Kurt. Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. I was thinking, if I remember right, I could be wrong, but I was thinking it was 9 infants that died, but I could be wrong. That's what I thought it was. You might be right. I don't know. I remember hearing about that. That was horrible. I was so shocked. There's just so many things they do like that it's just mind-boggling. It's just hard to believe they could be so evil and so inconsiderate, unloving, and just go on and on about how awful they are. It's terrible.
It is, Thomas. It's almost, it's hard to believe. It really is. As we get on the trail and we pick up crumbs from the Watchtower, man, it's hard to believe what went on and how we were part of it. Well, Thomas, it's always good to hear from you. Thank you. Kurt, come on. Kurt, West Virginia.
Yeah, hi, Rick.
Hi.
Just thinking about what you were talking about, the lack of compensation in the Watchtower. And it's been talked about before on 6 screens. It's been explained really good tonight. I was just thinking to myself, if a person was in the Watchtower and believed it's God's organization, even if a person believed that, the lack of compensation to people doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The people that work at Bethl, obviously everybody's got to live, pay bills, and just live. So they get very little compensation at Bethl. The elders and, well, everybody in the congregation works. You know, they mow the grass on the weekends. They do maintenance on the Kingdom Hall. The elders' wives, they've got more of a job, I guess, in the local Kingdom Hall, but no compensation. And compared to a Mormon church, even the local.
Hey, Rick, Cash Bethl, listen, I need to talk to you urgently. At the Minnesota shootings, all 3 victims were white.
Yeah.
The conference has been locked.
Inside, I've got questions, and I think you have answers. Don't make me come.
The conference has been unlocked. The conference has been locked.
I'm sorry, Kurt. Go ahead.
Oh, that is sorry. Sorry for you, Rick. But yeah, just to sum it up, the lack of compensation, even local churches, you know, the pastors in most cases are financially compensated, and even with a place to live a lot. So it's hard on people. It has to be with the average witness, from everybody in the congregation, you know, out in the field service and doing all the other work with no compensation, but especially those that are working, especially those in my working at Bethl. But thank you for taking my call, and sorry about that interruption. Go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, thank you, Kurt. No, we get people coming in here, operatives of the Watchtower, trying to disrupt the program, but we got the situation under control. Thank you for understanding. It's really something, friends. I'll tell you, I was a Jehovah's Witness for 50 years of my life, and you know, I got out pretty good. I'm not too badly injured by it. Some people have really been hurt by it, but you know, it really. I've always said, you know, you experience emotions in life we all experience emotions, right? Sometimes these emotions run wild and rampant. But when I first got out of the watch, and I've said this numerous times on here, you feel different emotions. Now, when I first got out, I was really angry. That was the emotion I had. I was so angry that I was a witness for 50 years, and these people kind of conned me. It was like you in some big scam and you found out about it, you'd be angry. These bums. I mean, I gave a lot of money. I gave a lot of my time. I gave a lot of effort to go out and service and even neglect my family at times to make the Watchtower happy. So I was angry, just like you would be angry. And you are angry. I'm you listening in here. You're angry too. You experience the same emotions. So okay, so the anger it leaves after a while. You don't get as angry. You kind of get over it, right? But then the next thing is the emotion that came into play here was frustration. I'm frustrated because now you know the evils of the Watchtower. So now you want to go out and you want to tell people. You want to tell your relatives and friends that are witnesses, and you can hardly wait to get to go tell them, but they turn a deaf ear. That's frustration. You're frustrated. It's why is this? I got something to tell them that's life-saving. They won't listen to me. Man, you guys have been frustrated too. But then that disappears. Now the next emotion is I'm fascinated. It's fascination. I'm wondering what is the glue? Why do these people stay in this nasty organization? I'm fascinated by it. How is it this happens? Can't they see the forest through the trees? So then fascination disappears after a while too. Now I'll tell you the stage I'm in right now. And you guys probably even hear me laugh sometimes. I'm looking at this as a joke. It's a big joke. It makes me laugh. It's humorous. It's humorous that people can be brought into a back room and told that you're a bad person. And because you're so bad, Jehovah doesn't want you anymore. And because you're so bad, nobody wants you anymore. That it's sad, but it's humorous. How these people really don't, Jehovah's Witnesses don't have any control over your life. Only when you're a witness, you can walk out that door and their control stops. But it's just humorous to me. It's humorous to me. What was humorous in the last couple of years? The beards. Geez, for years, I talked to brothers that could never have a beard. One brother was told, you have a beard and, you'll never give a talk again. And they were so strict on this. Now you want a beard? Have a beard. Have a beard. And then now I'm learning. And this is humorous too. I'm now learning, and don't take it to the bank and cash it. But information coming into the 6 screens is now moving toward tattoos. I think it's only a matter of time, and the witnesses will be able to show their fancy colored tattoos. Now, when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, we couldn't do hardly anything. But see, this is where the governing body is really pandering. They are doing everything they can to make people, these young ones especially. I mean, have you noticed the tattoos on people? I mean, I'm not picking on them. I mean, I'm not going to go down and go myself. But geez, people, the women got them all over their legs. The guys got them all over their arms, legs, everywhere. I see people on their faces. That's what people do, they do. I'm not going to even comment on that. But the thing is, as long as I was a witness, if you got a tattoo, my God, you were a Satanist. If you got a tattoo, you were, man, so weak, it was pathetic. You need help. But now, well, let me give you the information I got. Information came into 6 screens. It was a tattoo artist, and he mentioned that he had a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses in that got tattoos, and they're doing it. And then we also understand that when you see Jehovah's, now a lot of witnesses got tattoos before they became witnesses. There's nothing you can do about that. But now all of a sudden we have witnesses going to tattoo parlors. Now, I'm not going to tell you there's tens of thousands right now, but it's all of a sudden things start a little bit like a snowball rolling down the hill, and the governing body realizes if you're going to have young ones come in, and this is a thing, man. This is a thing. Tattoos are in. You're going to have to let them have tattoos. So that's what's going on. And only time will tell. But the Watchtower is bending the rules to keep the people in. I mean, do you get that, right? I think you do. Because why else would they be doing this? These were hard, fast rules. And, you know, they always held to it. I think you do. Because why else would they be doing this? These were hard, fast rules. Okay, yeah, someone came on. They had my YouTube on. So yeah, if you're gonna come on, make sure. Maverick, I see you got my yeah, your YouTube's on. Yeah, did you want to say something, Maverick? But shut the YouTube off. Yep. All right. Yeah. So that's just
sorry. Rick.
Yeah, that's okay.
So they could knock two birds with one stone and actually tattoo their beards.
Yeah,
That saved them a lot of trouble, though.
Well, you know, I'll tell you something. I mentioned it last week. I was out in Chicago, and anyways, I went to Popeyes. I like Popeyes chicken. I don't know if they have them in London or not, but they have them over here. It's nice fried chicken, and you know, there's not that many of them around. So I was out in Chicago, and my daughter with me. I says, "Hey, Jamie, let's stop and get some Popeyes chicken." So we're in the restaurant, and Jamie says to me, my daughter, "Hey, Dad, those people there behind us, they look like Jehovah's Witnesses." And there was like, I think 7 of them. Was a man, I believe it was his wife, 2 other older sisters, and 2 or 3 kids. It was about 7 people. And they're all dressed up really nice. So my daughter said, "Dad, I believe they're witnesses." So I turned around, and they were getting up and leaving. And I said, "Hey, you guys," I said, "I want to compliment you. You look so nice. You're all dressed up and your shoes are shined." I said, "You don't see that today." So I said, are you guys church people?" So the brother says, "Well, we're Jehovah's Witnesses." But you know what really flabbergasted me is they didn't try to preach to me. They didn't say, "Yeah, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. Why don't you come to our conventions right down the street?" But they didn't say that. And they were wearing no badges either. So I'm thinking, you know, all of us, for most part, those listening to this program, when we were Jehovah's Witnesses and someone opened up on us like that in a restaurant, boy, you guys look so nice. Oh, yes, we'd be all over them like a cheap suit, right? Come on to the convention. Here's a pamphlet. Here's a magazine. None of that. So, you know, I found that kind of funny. Well, kind of strange. It's a different organization. Yes, Stefan.
On that same note, I was listening to I keep up with Scientology as well. It's one particular channel. But it was really interesting to see how they use the same sort of techniques to try to get people into Scientology. But anyway, the person was talking about how Scientology pushes, guess what? What do you think Scientology pushes in order to bring people in and keep the ones they have? Videos. And so he was talking about the mindset.
The conference has been unlocked.
Scientology really couldn't sell the religion, and what it's all about, and what it does for you, and all of that. So what they do is they basically they do the introductions, and then they sit you down and you watch a video that tries to explain the whole thing. And it just was so amazing that this is exactly the same thing that Watchtower does. They push the video because the Watchtower witnesses really don't know what Watchtower is teaching is because it's changing minute by minute. They don't do a good job, you know, of selling it. Just like you said, you went to them and gave them an opportunity for a witness, and they didn't even take advantage of it. I guess it's the same thing in Scientology. So everything is about video. So it was just so ironic how all these cults apply the same techniques.
Well, there was it's interesting to bring that up, Stefan. There is a convention. It's called Set. I'm not sure I'm saying it right. I just kind of thought of it on the tip of my tongue here because I do remember doing some research on it. But it's a convention that all these cult people go to. the Watchtower, Mormons, Scientology, Christian Science, and Setner or something like that. And what it is a convention they all go to, and they swap ideas. I'm going to bring that. In fact, I'm going to look that up and bring it up next week on the 6 screens, because we're going to talk about that. That is definitely what these cults do. They share ideas. So that idea of Scientology, as you say, used in videos, the Watchtower is copying all of that. They all have to find a way to recruit new people. If you're a cult and you're not recruiting people, you're going out of business. Yeah, because you have more going out the back door than coming in the front. Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's just so important that the people who need to hear this are the very people who won't hear it. But yeah, you're right. They do exchange ideas. I know you remember a few years ago, I think I was still in the board. They did this announcement where they were trying to send witnesses to the Middle East, specifically to Jerusalem, Israel. I don't know if you remember that. They were trying to get people to go. And then there was also a call to get people to go to these remote places like in Alaska. And that just kind of struck me about it. I'm like, why are you sending people to Alaska, and why are you sending people to Israel? And the reason is because other churches were sending their missionaries there. And so Watchtower, so the mindset must have been, hey, we got to get in on this. They're going to go down there and convert everybody, and they'll all be, whatever, other religion. So that was the reason, for the call. And as far as swapping ideas, the one that stands out to me the most was the first Witness Bible that they put out that had the cross margin. And I just thought, man, what a cool thing this is, And they really sold it. I think it was the black, ours was black. This was before the silver swap. And they had the cross reference in the middle. And they were talking about, well, what a blessing this is from Jehovah, and how hard the brothers work, and how this is going to make Bible study, so easy and so much more productive, because you can see where other scriptures or other ideas are mentioned someplace else in the Bible. And then I learned years later that other Bible producers of Bibles were already doing that. They were doing that for years, many years. And this wasn't anything from Jehovah or to facilitate Bible study. They were just copying an idea that other religious leaders, other Bible translators and producers were already doing.
That's
So
why
yeah,
they don't
they
want
do
you
swap
reading other
ideas.
stuff. Stefan, that's why they
exactly
don't
right.
want you reading and going to a Christian bookshop where you would realize it. And I would realize
That's exactly right.
I did realize it.
Yeah. And even that God offered probably the worst statement I've ever heard a government body make was that awful Stephen Lett when he made the statement about babies being enemies of God. I'm still angry about that. If I ever see him, me and him are going to fight. But I just happened to have a video. It was from some other church, and their pastor said the same exact thing, that babies were enemies of God. And I said to myself, these guys are all just sitting there parroting one another. It's just a big echo chamber. They are all saying the exact same thing. So you're right, Brother Farron. They are just copying from one another. Things.
Well, you got to thank you. Well, that's good. No, we're starting to really get down to the nitty gritty of this organization. It certainly is, without question, a cult. We know that. It certainly is a dangerous, devious, destructive organization. We know that. And it's just to the point that we have to really come to grips with the fact that it's hurting a lot of people. And then that's why we do this every Saturday night. And, I'll tell you, I moved recently from one house to another here. And I had a bunch of Watchtower publications, and I had them in storage. In fact, I've got hundreds of them, thousands of them, really. I've been collecting them for years, and people have been giving them to me. But I had a whole storage unit. I mean, seriously, just with Watchtower, for the most part, Watchtower publications. But I got enough room in my new house here to put them in. But I'm just the bottom line here, what I'm trying to get at is I was moving a bunch of them, and I'm seeing all the yearbooks. I'm looking at all the yearbooks. They used to put them in different colors, and the yearbook was pretty good. You'd like to see what was going on. But then I started saying they don't even print the yearbook anymore. Jehovah's Witness organization doesn't really print the yearbook anymore. You know, they give you the figures in the Watchtower, but they used to give you the worldwide work figures in the yearbook. But in about 1972, somewhere around there, I started noticing, because I was still a witness at the time, but the yearbooks started getting thinner. You know, they weren't as thick. Before they used to be like an inch thick, or maybe like an inch and a quarter, not quite an inch and a half, but at least an inch thick. But in 1972, I saw them starting to get a little thinner. And then 10 years later, by 1982, it's very thin. It's like, what is this? Like a booklet, not a book. And then of course, they discontinued. The yearbook is not even being printed anymore. They discontinued it in 2017. But as I'm moving stuff around, I'm looking at the yearbooks today, and I'm saying, wow, I got all these, but they don't even print those books anymore. But why do you think they don't print the yearbook? I started thinking of that. There's nothing really for them to brag about. They don't want a bound book with terrible numbers in it. There's nothing for them to brag about anymore. So they have to print it in a Watchtower that usually comes out around, well, sometimes around February or so with the figures. But I just wanted to bring that up. But there's nothing for the Watchtower to brag about anymore. Dan Clark, what do you think?
Hey, Rick, I just wanted to go back on what you were saying about those levels of, you know, the things you go through when you get out. It's surprising that we recover. You know, when you look at it from a psychological perspective, I mean, to overcome grief, you know, like somebody dying, overcome abandonment, regret, apathy, victimization, becoming a victim. We have every force against us when we wake up and we think, man, I've been screwed. And then you think, wow, I lost 25, 30, 40 years of my life. You can go into those fields. They call them attractor fields, victim, apathy. Those are almost impossible to come out of. People stay victims their whole life. People stay angry their whole life. And they're almost impossible to overcome. So, you know, I appreciate the show. I mean, I've come out here and screamed and cussed and healed and moved to those other levels where I'm sane again and whole. And it's because I've been able to vent and people understand, hey, you know, that's Dan. He's getting this stuff out of him, or whoever, right, comes on there and says I was screwed and I lost so many years of my life. I don't have anything saved. And I've been fortunate enough to go back to the assembly after I've left years later, like a couple years later. And I saw a guy in the same place I was in, totally overjoyed with the truth, totally happy. He was in Bethl. He was just flying high. And my heart went out to him. Like, oh my God, you know, when he wakes up or they lay him off or they tell him he's got to go home and he don't have nowhere to go and he hasn't planned for life. He's planned for death. You know, we planned for, you know, like me, I planned for 75. And when 75 didn't happen, I graduated in 77. You won't believe it, Rick. I don't know. It might have been my education or where I grew up, what part of the world. But I didn't know I was going to have an apartment or a place to live. I didn't know I was going to have a trash can. I didn't know I was going to have toilet paper. I was that stupid when I came out of there. I was like, the world was supposed to end. Jehovah was supposed to take care of me. And then I woke up and I went back. I got divorced and went back. And then I got into the generation prophecy. And when I got in, Rick, I get into things hook, line, and sinker. And I got in hook, line, and sinker. So when they told me the generation wasn't a generation as we know it, and a generation is this, and not 70 or 80 years from 1914 to the late 1980s, I was done. I was out. But I had no communication skills. My communication was the Watchtower. This says we got to find the Watchtower that tells me how to take a dump. We got to have the Watchtower that tells me how to find a wife. We got to have the Watchtower. The elders tell me how to. Man, Rick, talking about having everything against you, education, communication, all these things, and to recover. So I did spend the next 20 some years studying and reading and learning to read whatever I wanted. And I recovered. But man, Rick, it is a journey. That's what I'll say. It's a journey with a lot of feelings. You said it so many times in your show, so many feelings. And if I could share, I know I've talked a lot, but I wanted to share about my uncle that called me.
Sure.
Am I talking too much?
No, I'd love to hear it. Love to hear it.
I had an uncle that called me. You guys know my brother died. My younger brother died. He just fell asleep and didn't wake up. And so anyway, it was interesting. One, my phone was in my pocket, and the phone said the number will not go through as dialed. And I thought, oh, bud dialed. And I pulled it out of my phone. It was my oldest brother, who's an elder. And he said, hey, Danny, how's it going? And I'm like, how did we connect? What just happened? Never what you said earlier. He never, ever talked about the witnesses. He never talked about anything. How you doing? This is my life. I have cars. It's just like he had no conscience that I'm his brother that he hadn't talked to for 20 years. You know what I mean? I mean, I talked to him once in that time, but I'm just saying he had no concept. He was like, hey, Danny, how's it going? And, oh, I'm pretty good. I'm selling my house out here. I'm doing this. And he told me about his house. We talked for like 2 hours. Not one word about the witnesses. Then my uncle called, Bethl, all that stuff, heavily involved, heavily involved. God almighty, Rick, he sounded like a vegetable. My heart went out to him. He literally called me 20 times in a row. And he sounded like this. He goes, Danny, would you give me a call, Danny? I got a couple questions for you. And I said, sure. So I called him up and said, hey, Neil, how's it going? And he said, about did you leave the truth and this and that? I said, well, I never really left Jehovah or God, whatever you want to call him, but I did leave men controlling my life and blah, blah, blah. And then he says, yeah, those religions out there, they're about all the money. And I said, well, don't you think the organization's making a lot of money with this big firm they have, as big as Edwards out there? And, so we had this thing back and forth. He never denied it. So I started thinking, is he trying to leave or whatever? But we had like 4 or 5 3-hour talks. And then I realized there was just something wrong with him. Just like what's wrong with him? And Rick, here's what happened. I talk just like I talk on our show. I just debate him. Just, hey, I'll throw this back at you. What about this? Why do you guys recall the literature? Why are you doing this? What do you think about him letting you wear beards? All the stuff we talk about, which is wonderful that this show brought all that to my attention. But he said something that just kind of broke my heart. It wasn't a bad thing. But he said, Danny, there's something wrong with you. And I said, yeah? And he goes, yeah, something's wrong. I can't get through to you. There's something wrong. And the problem was he just reading me the same scriptures. Do you know the earth's going to be a paradise tomorrow? Do you know that Job's going to come in and do this? And it sort of like broke my heart, because he's used to going to people in the barbershop and saying, let me read you a scripture. He's a full-time pioneer. He's been a pioneer for 16 years. But he says, I can't reach you, Danny. I don't know what to say. I can't reach you. So since I haven't called him, because I realized I just don't want to talk to him 3 hours every night, there's nothing new to say. It's like a program. It's like he's a program. And I said, yeah, Neil, let me just finish that scripture for you. It says, yeah, down the great dragon was hurled, the original serpent, the one called Satan, is just the entire, it's woe for the earth, and he's like, you do know the Bible. I said, yeah, I was in there for 40 years along with you. But they got this idea, Rick, that everyone out there is stupid. So to the normal people, he goes out there and reads the scripture about God as, Jesus is in a Trinity, and, God's name is Jehovah, and there's going to be a paradise. And he gets a big kick out of that. But I broke his heart. And I didn't really want to. He's 80-some years old. I didn't really want to, but it's almost like he's like, what's wrong, Dan? What's wrong with you? I can't reach you. Don't you think that's weird, Rick? Isn't that a sad thing to hear him say something like that?
Well, it really is. And being your brother too, then it's a shame, because I'm sure you have really good memories. Oh, I'm sorry, your uncle. Yeah, but being involved with a relative like that and having them, one time years ago close to you and able to converse with you, and now they're like zombies. You can't even get through. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah, and he can't get through to me. He couldn't hear one thing I said. Not one thing. When I did a rebuttal, I said, yes, sounds to me like Jehovah's Witnesses are the ones that you're talking about, the churches. But boy, I said, they've sure changed everything, and they've sure done this. And he'd go, yeah,
Jeez.
like that. And then he'd come back with a scripture. And I don't know, man, I was like, it was like I was just talking to a vegetable, and he said the same thing over and over, which made me feel like he might be going into, they call it dotage a little bit, where, you know, he just kept saying, you know, Danny, my wife never worked. And I said, yeah, I know. And he says, so that's why I don't have, you know, the retirement and, you know, the things that I have. And, but I'm doing okay. And, yeah, you know, and he started sending me pictures of cars, but something's changed in there where they can at least talk to you. But it's sad because it's just a one-way conversation. There's no ability to hear. You know, like the Bible said, they'd have eyes that couldn't see. He can't see yin and yang. He can't see my perspective and his perspective. He can't balance the two. He always said was the same thing over and over. I believe the Bible, every word is the word of God. And I said, well, what do you think about this scripture? You know, and he would say, yeah, let me read you another scripture, Danny. And he'd just read one, you know, we already know Psalms 83:18 or something, you know, or it's going to be a paradise. But man, my heart went out. But Rick, it was the weirdest thing when he said that to me. Because I don't know why, but I didn't want to hurt him. He was like fragile. I didn't want to break him. I didn't want to even raise my voice to him. I was talking very gently, very succinctly. Very well, what do you think? Don't you think the Watchtower has quite a bit of money? I mean, man, they got a firm like this. I think they got billions, don't they? Well, let me read you another scripture. It's just the weirdest conversation, Rick. Their minds, I realize the mind is really, really messed up because you had to deny reality. When they said there's a false prophecy, now he's been in a lot longer than me. But when you had 75 go by, the generation, the overlapping, and all the rest of them that go all the way up to today, you've had to deny that. The Watchtower says it never happened, and he said that one time. I said, what do you think about 75? You know, what do you think about what happened there? What happened, he said. I said, it didn't happen. You don't stay alive to 75 on all the Watchtowers. And he goes, it never happened. The same as the brother that when I was at the assembly that was lying to my face, somehow Watchtowers got him believing that they didn't make any prophecies at all. And I'm just like, wow. So anyway, I just stopped communicating with him as much as I was, and I'll probably call him tonight and see if he's got any. He's written me, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 more times and called and left a message. Please call me, please call me, please call me. So I'll probably call him one more time. But it's a time waster if you're not having a two-way conversation, you know. And I thought maybe he's leaving. Maybe he wants me to question him and question what he's doing. So Angela said, well, just talk to him. So anyway, interesting, huh, Rick?
Well, I'll tell you, Dan, no, it's fascinating. In fact, as I'm sitting here listening to you and all of the people listening into our program tonight, we can relate to what you're saying. You know, it's so hard to describe the demeanor of a Jehovah's Witness. I don't know if there's words in the dictionary to even describe it. You know, some like a zombie state, like you say, vegetable state, where we all have different, it's just as something that's readily noticeable. Readily. And so,
you know, Rick, they've unplugged. They're nowhere. They've been told not to think. They've been told, we'll do the thinking for you. That's why when you go on XJW.org, they tell you how to take a shower and don't, you know, touch areas and do this and do that and do this in the bed and do that. It's like they completely, if somebody has all your answers, a friend of mine who is a therapist told me one time when I first got out of the witnesses, she says, I'm not going to give you the answers. And I was so pissed, Rick. I said, just tell me the damn answer. Just tell me, help me, give me the answer. She said, no, I want you to start thinking. And Rick, honestly, I didn't start thinking for about 10 years. And I didn't stop being angry for about 10 years. And what I did, and this was bad, but I used to go around to churches. And I was like a time bomb. I was going to kick that pastor through a wall. I would jump up in the middle of a televised church and tell the pastor where to go. I'd tell him, quit asking for money in the middle of the church. I mean, I was like a radical time bomb. I said, that pastor walks in front of me again, I'm going to kick him through the wall. I had all of that pent up that I was projecting out on the other people. It wasn't their fault, but I had all of this rage, and my God, I didn't think I was going to overcome it at the time. I was so mad. When I saw Watchtower didn't care, when I saw they bastardized my name when I left, when I saw this thing, I went, these guys are nasty. These guys are pricks. These guys are, oh my God, these guys are evil. And I just was like, oh, and man, nobody likes to feel like they've been screwed over. And so, Rick, they unplug your mind, and then they unplug your heart because they tell you it's treacherous and desperate. You know, you don't have equilibrium. You don't have right and left thinking. Then you have compartmentalization. It never happened. The light got brighter. One light got brighter. One light got brighter. The generation wasn't a generation as we know it, but it's a generation like this. And so your mind acts. And you don't know what to think. So your fuses are blown. You've never used your brain for thinking other than going to work. You don't use your heart to feel for people out there because you can't feel for those who left. You know, they're going to die. So cut that off, even babies. And so all your inner faculties, all the gifts God gave us, our heart, mind, our thinking ability, our right and left brain, our spiritual side, our mental side, you know, the Bible says when we use those two, the eye becomes single. When we use the right and left brain, it says the eye becomes single. We have spiritual sight. They've never had it. They've only been left braining it through a cult that has been guiding them. And complete takeover, Rick, it's a complete takeover. So that's what I saw with my uncle. My brother didn't say one word because I'm sure he didn't want to get into the debate with me. But my uncle, I think, thought if you read me 100 scriptures, you might move me somehow with scripture. I don't know. It's weird. But Rick, I appreciate your show, and let everybody come on there and do whatever they need to do. I know I've come on there and made a lot of swearing, and I apologize, but something just had to come out. And there's no better word than the F word. Sometimes they use it in a lot of seminars now. They're like, even Anthony Robbins said, there's no better word. I watched one of his movies and he was using it. And he said, I just can't reach the people unless I use that word. So anyway, I'm pulling back a little bit.
Well, that's
Happy 21st birthday, Dan.
Oh, thank you. 21st. Yeah, 66 today. Oh my God.
Wow.
66 years old.
well, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my birthday today, same as Trump's. So yeah, there are warplanes going over, but no, we're selling our house. We might end up in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Very affordable living, a little hot, you know, but we're thinking about that area. Anyway, I'll let someone else talk. But thank you guys.
Maybe we should all move to Vegas.
Yeah. Hey man, I was there one night, 111 degrees at midnight.
Wow.
There was nowhere to get out of the heat. I was in one of the casinos, and I was underneath the parking garage. And I literally ran, and they have tunnels, and they have enclosed air conditioning things across the street. And I thought, why? And I was out there standing, and I was like, oh my God, it's that hot. But, you know, Las Cruces is a little bit cooler. It's about 4,000 feet. So it's in the 90s, 100s. But it's for 3 months. I guess there's 9 months of, you know, really, really nice weather. But anyway, we're just kicking it around right now. But we'll see what happens. House on the market. We'll see what goes down.
Hey, Dan.
Yep.
This is Susan. I wanted to ask you an honest question about your uncle.
Yes.
You know, he's throwing scriptures at you.
Yes.
He's trying to convince himself rather than you.
I was wondering about that, Susan. That was the reason I went back. That was the reason I called him. And I said, maybe he wants out. And you're right. I could talk for 15 minutes and he'd say, you're right. You're right. You're right. And then he'd read me the witness. It never really hit me that could be the real reason. But Angela told me that. That's why I talked to him for those 3 hours. But he did make that comment about, he almost cried. He said, I can't, something's wrong with you, Dan. He said it like that, like trembling. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I can't.
Something's wrong with him.
You're right. You are right. I think you might be right. And that's what made me want to call him tonight, Susan. I want to give him a call and say, hey, Neil, I'm here. But his phone has been, you can't get through because the messages are full. So I text him, but I didn't call him back after, you know, he called me about, 8 or 9 times. But that was the very first thing I got. Maybe he's trying to get out because you know what his father did? His father was an elder, and he died, which is my grandfather. And he told my Uncle Neil, he says, we got screwed. We've been lied to. and they said he had a stroke. My Uncle Neil, my Uncle Gary said he had a stroke. And I said, no, guys, no. He didn't have a stroke. He's telling you the truth. No, he lost his mind right before he died. No, he woke up. But that's what he said. But you're right, Susan. That gives me assurance to go back and do that again. So I will call him and I will see, because I know they tip around. And you're right. Prove me wrong. And I can prove them wrong. I'm very grounded in what I know. I'm not afraid to talk to any of them. And I talked to him about Let. I even sent him videos of Tony Morris. I said, what do you think of this guy that says he's going to be glad we're dead? I'm saying, Neil, you said you love everybody and Jehovah's love. Well, what do you think about this scripture that said Jehovah says beat all the men, women, and children and take the wives for yourself? I said, that sounds kind of creepy, doesn't it? That Jehovah said take the virgins, don't take soiled wives, but take. I said, what do you think about that scripture? Well, you're right. I'll look that up, he says. And then I sent him Tony Morris, Lighting the Match, and I sent him Stephen Lett. I said, what do you think about a man that says babies are? I said, I was just asking like questions. But Susan, I think you're right. I'm convinced now that I should go back and work with them at that pace and just answer simple questions. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, he sounds pretty desperate, but keep us informed on what's going on with him.
I will.
Interesting to find out.
Yeah, my brother didn't even talk about it. Like Rick said, my brother didn't say one word. I'm like, man, aren't you going to ask me? Are you coming back to the truth? Is the world going to end? He didn't say nothing like that. He called me. I called at my brother's funeral. I called him down there. He said, hey, Dan, some of your friends want to talk to you down here in Michigan. And then he says, how you doing? You doing all right? You need anything? But nothing about the witnesses. So I don't even know if he's still in. I think he is. But I don't know.
He might
Things
be
are changing.
physically in, mentally, becoming mentally out.
It's so weird, Susan. I've never thought about that with my own family, but I think you might be right, because why else would he be calling me when I'm telling him the exact opposite? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I think you're absolutely right. I got to keep that in mind. He could be a PMO. He could be, or just starting that frame where maybe we got screwed. You're so right. Thank you for that.
Well, keep us informed, Dan.
I will. I sure will.
Well, thank you, Dan. Did Michael King out there? Do you want to come in, Michael? Come on out.
I was just listening, but I will say something about what Dan said. I do believe that the witnesses are so devoted to Jehovah that they forget all the other elements of life there is, like compassion and love and concern for their fellow man. They just do what's the best for the organization, and they don't have that compassion back. And the other thing, they cannot. I don't know if you've talked to Jehovah's Witnesses lately, but I think I expressed last week that I'm renewing the leases on. I have an apartment building. I'm renewing the leases, and I have all Jehovah's Witnesses in the buildings, and I speak to them about the Bible, and they cannot defend their faith with the scriptures. It's always go to JW.org or something like that, and I'm so. It's unbelievable to me because, Rick, you and I know both when we used to go out in service, we could defend our faith, with scriptures. But these people can't do it now. I talked to anything. I actually called the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and asked the question about Revelation 1:17, and they couldn't even give me an answer. They wouldn't give me the answer. They told me to look it up on JW.org.
Can I say something regarding that? Yeah, I noticed that too, and I mentioned that to my uncle. I said, you guys don't preach anymore. He goes, oh yeah, and I said, no, come on, don't tell me that. I've seen too many car witnesses. They tell you to go to JW.org. Nobody pulls out a Bible. What's changed? And I said, and why are they preaching JW.org and not about Jehovah? I said, when I was in there, we were talking about Jehovah. We were talking about he's God and Jesus is, the Son of God, and we had all of our lines. We used our Bible thoroughly. And I said, but I'm telling you, you guys, 90% of you, I said, you're out in the middle of parks where nobody's at. You're on dead-end roads. You're out at the lake. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, but you're exactly right. They will not defend their faith. They've been told not to. I think it's for reasons because people like us are out there. But they don't do it anymore.
I think you're exactly right. I don't think they'd want a Jehovah's Witness talking to me about the Bible, because I'll prove everything they have wrong, and I'll do it right from the scriptures. And I think they know that, because there's educated people out there now that know their scriptures, know the Bible, and they don't want people talking. Just send them to jw.org. That's all we need to do.
And we're the most dangerous because we've been there, and now we're outside of there. Now we not only had eyes in there, but we've been out here and been educated, and we've been educated in a lot of things and have a much bigger and broader perspective. So we're dangerous. That's why they wanted us out, and they've abandoned us and cut us off so severely. Anyway,
well, Dan, the gift is up. May I call you Lieutenant Dan? I'm sorry, I should do that. But you know what? I saw the trend. I'm a trend person, and I saw we had the trend going in our direction. We knew the Bible. Then it just changed suddenly, and everybody else knew the Bible. My wife occasionally goes to the biggest Baptist church in Southwest Ohio, and she says these people know the Bible better than the witnesses ever did. I mean, it's totally changed. Now the witnesses are basically not even having you discuss the Bible. Just go to jw.org.
You're right.
Interesting to me. And let me add, I was trying to add something. Because you're supposed to defend your faith. Their whole premise is you need to talk about the truth or you're dead to God, you know. And that's very disturbing. You know?
Hey, what's the name of the church in Southwest Baptist Church in Ohio? Because I go to mostly all of them in Ohio.
Do you? What part of Ohio are you from, sir?
Well, I'm in the Lancaster area. You familiar with that? Just outside of Columbus.
Chester?
Yeah, oh yeah.
In Clinton County?
Fairfield. Yeah.
It's amazing how the Baptists have so expanded all over this area. What we call the Bible Belt is what it's called. Yeah, we're down here just below you in Union Township, Claremont County. Okay. And they got a Reverend Snook, I believe. And let me just tell this side story. This is what I'm going to say. I went and visited for the first time. I'm not going to ever be a member of that church, by the way. And one of the head deacons or ministers, I'm talking to him, he's the friendly guy. You know, they got one of those guys at every store, the friendly guy, you know. He's like 6'3", probably a basketball player when he was in high school. Anyway, I said, yeah, me and my wife used to be ministers in the Jehovah's Witnesses. And my wife was like the first pioneer in our congregation. Anyway, she said, yeah, I have a friend who's an elder around the corner here. And he says he's been having sex with his sister-in-law for several years. Yeah. And I said, well, that doesn't surprise me. And I said, you don't have to give me the name. And it's like, I said, yeah, that's about right for the Kingdom Hall, is what I said. And guess what? I know people who go to that Kingdom Hall. They don't know about it. What the hell's going on over there, you know? Everybody in the Baptist church knows about it. But no one at the Kingdom Hall. It speaks for itself. What the hell are you doing over there? That's all I got to say about that.
Well, King and Dots, good to hear from you. Also, Dan, my goodness gracious. No, in fact, even they decide this. Lieutenant Dan. In fact, he's higher than a lieutenant. He's way higher than a lieutenant. I mean,
that's from Forrest Gump. That's from Forrest Gump. Lieutenant Dan. Does anybody remember that? I watched Jamaica.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Well, thank you, King and Dots. Constance, you want to say something, or is that Dick?
Yeah, it's me, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to wish Dan a happy 66th birthday. And when we were out in California about 3 years ago, a Jehovah's Witness elder came knocking at the door. And actually, he's hitting the buzzer. And right above the buzzer, Connie had a sign, said no soliciting. It had a picture of a Jehovah's Witness with the book bag and the necktie and the whole bit. Well, I opened the door and he said, he introduced himself as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I said, come on in, you know. And I had him come in, sat down, and he had another woman with him. It wasn't his wife. It was another woman. And he started preaching. So I was sitting right across on a couch, and my Bible was sitting right on the couch. So I grabbed my Bible, and he started doing some scriptures. And then I said to him, I had him, you know, I had said the spider to the fly, come on into my trap. I had a whole bunch of stuff to say to him, but I kind of blew it. I said to him, well, you know, I've read the Truth book and the Paradise Earth book. And then he said, well, I got to go meet the group. We offered him coffee and so forth. And no, he says, I got to go meet the group. And he scooted out of there as fast as you can be. The point is, they don't want to discuss anything anymore. They're paranoid that people are smarter. I mean, we were always told that you know more than the priest, any bishop, rabbi, because you've been studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses, and every single time you go to the Kingdom Hall on Thursday night, you know, you're learning about the Bible and the whole bit. So you're very knowledgeable. So you should have all the confidence in the world. But in reality, when I was going door to door as a Jehovah's Witness, and I'd run across a born again, they knew way more scriptures than I knew, and maybe kind of paranoid. Now Jehovah's Witnesses, as Dan alluded to, they just go to XJW.org. We're not even going to talk to you. We might hand you a magazine from the magazine card, but we're not going to discuss our faith with you because they just don't know. They're, as you always say, they just do things in a perfunctory, hope I pronounce that word right, perfunctory way, and they're not the JWs that they used to be. Not when I was in. At least you know what a concordance was, and you could make arguments. Today they're brain dead. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, go ahead. Is that 602?
It's Dan. I just wanted to say to Rich, the world has gotten a lot smarter too. We've got AI at our fingertips. In fact, you could prepare for a witness coming to your door in a matter of seconds with AI and have debate. So I think that's part of the reason they've shut them down. We're a lot smarter. Everybody's a lot smarter. And the people who have left are a lot smarter. They've learned to think and reason. And you got that, and then you've got AI, and then you've got the things that you've studied outside. You've broken the mind control. And so now you're a deadly weapon. And their mouths are sealed. And I want to just say that their mouths are sealed. When you go up to a cart, it's JW.org. That's why I said that to my Uncle Neil. I said, you guys don't preach Jehovah anymore. You preach JW.org. I said, that's gross. I said, I won't do that. I don't preach JW.org. I tell people about God, but I don't tell people about an organization. And I said, there's no open Bibles. Nobody's opened a Bible. And he started to lie. And I said, come on now. Come on. Be honest with me. I told him, be honest with me. Let's not BS here. But you're right. Nobody, it's all JW.org, 100%. No matter where I went here in Idaho, every trail, every backwoods, every coffee shop, and they get pissed. I'm going to tell you, they get pissed now if you ask them a question. If you ask them about Toni Morris, or you ask them about Stephen Letting babies, or you ask them about what's it like to be able to wear a beard now, they get pissed. It's something. But anyway, thanks for the birthday wish, Borgie. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Thank you, Constance. Thank you. Love you guys. Love your show. We listen every week. We just don't always. We love you too. We don't get a chance to always come in, but we listen in every week. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Hold on one second. Hold on. We got to go here in line. 602 has been trying to get on here. Go ahead, 602.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Go ahead, Hubert. Gilbert.
Hey, you know how I always say, right? Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. That's what they say in the military to the young kids. The kids try to come into the ship, and the admiral tells them, keep it simple. Because they've already been doing this for a long time, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And so what happens is when you break everything down, like you guys are talking about in its most basic form, In the most basic form, what you're describing is a thing called idolatry. And this is, everything else is just, everything that you heard was just a byproduct of it. This is why Jehovah's Witnesses never confess their sins, because the moment you just say, I was an idolater, I worship at XJW.org, I worship man, I worship the governing body, whenever you just come to that grips, like I said last week, you know, you suck. You say, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I suck. I was an idolater. And you just come to grips with that. Then you understand, it's very easy to understand that no matter what you say to a Jehovah's Witness, he'll never listen to you because you're not human to him. You're below human. And this happens all the time throughout human history. You make these apostates subhuman. The Nazis did that. They made the Jews subhuman. That's all we do. And then in today's political realm, you see that people hate each other because they have certain titles, and they won't listen to you once they find out that you're with this group or you're with that group. Because idolatry does that. When you worship something more than your political party, your religion, you worship your wife, your husband, whatever it is, and you love that more. That's why Jesus says you have to love him more. So if you were to love Jesus more, Jesus is the truth. That means you love the truth more. And if the truth is that you're fat, you're ugly, your breath stinks, whatever, just live. But you accept it. You say, yeah, he's right, he's right, he's right. Because you love the truth. But a person who doesn't love the truth and who loves something more than the truth, like XJW.org, they'll never, ever listen to you. That's why Jesus says, don't throw pearls before swine. Because these people have already in their head determined that nothing that you say is of significance. And this is also why Jesus talked about titles. This is why all of these groups have the same thing in common. They all use titles: elders, ministerial servants, governors, representatives. Everyone has a title. And every time you accept your title, you're one step above the human. You look down on the human, you know. And so the message I'm trying to say, and I've always said it, is that if you just admit and you look in the mirror that you're an idolater, then it all makes sense. Because you don't love your brother. He's not your brother. See, because you're an idolater. But once you accept it and you flee from idolatry, then you can just listen to someone. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them. Like everything Dan is saying, I don't have to agree with him, but I can talk to him, I can listen to him. Jehovah's Witnesses can't do that with him because they're idolaters. See, that's the point. And that's why when we grew up, Rick, we never, ever openly confessed our sins. That can't be allowed.
Gilbert, can I just add to today's Maverick here? I'm just going to add to what you're saying. You're making some really good points. There was a little story. My sister-in-law's husband, right? We were having this debate. He's still a witness, and I posted on I sent him a picture of the golden calf with the XJW.org. That picture is circulated. I think most people know it, with the XJW.org logo on the golden calf as an example to him. And I said, some JWs, some witnesses are like this. They worship the XJW.org, just as you said, idolatry. And he went mad. He was so upset. And I said to myself, why are you upset? If you're worshiping Jehovah, why are you upset that I'm saying that some people elevate the organization and the logo above the principles and the word? And I said to him, why don't you measure your religion with the Bible? If you call yourselves witnesses of Jehovah, or you call yourselves Christians, for example, why are you elevating? Why? So the problem, I said to him, is that you are actually measuring your faith and your worship from the standard that Watchtower has given you, and you're not doing it from actually the reading.
The conference has been locked.
Just couldn't get it. So, some people do. It does click. But as you said, it's the idolatry. They don't openly want to say, but they get very uncomfortable.
The conference has been unlocked.
Listening to this now, if you're feeling uncomfortable that someone's criticizing the XJW.org, then you have to ask yourself, how close to idolatry are you are you in or you're inactive idolatry if you get absolutely mad? So you're absolutely right, Gilbert. That's a really good point you made. And it's evident when you hear people talk about how they react when you say something absolutely 100% based in fact, and it's supported by the standard that is supposed to be in the word and not Watchtower standard, you know? So, yeah, I just wanted to add to that because I think you made a very valid point.
Yeah, and Rick, did you notice how he said, he goes, you're absolutely right. So, you know, and I think we also established last week that if you ask me a question, we're going to have to start charging on the show. No, just kidding. But hey, Rick, on a serious note, you know, my girlfriend gets mad at me because I tell her I don't like being asked a lot of questions. So I think I need to get therapy because when people ask me like a lot of questions, like I start to shut down. So I don't know if this is like post-traumatic stress from being a Jehovah's Witness, you know, like an elder and stuff. You know, they ask you a lot of questions. And, you know, when you go to Kingdom Hall, everybody asks you like a lot of questions. So, but I'm just playing around here. But I'm going to try to get you a poem for next week because I want to be able to compete with Gary, King of Dots, and see if I can come up with a better one. And I got the first two verses of my poem. Roses are red, violets are blue. Sixth screen is awesome, but I can't finish the end. But I'm trying to get a better poem, so we'll see if I can do it for next
Well, I mean, you're coming up against some stiff competition with the King of Dots. Let's face it.
The worst is a haiku, Gilbert. I think it's a haiku. The last one doesn't have to rhyme.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, Pixie, that's how King of Dots says it. It's not always rhyming. What do you call that?
I think it's like rapping. We could have like a rap battle in Tewksbury. We could have people get up and just rap.
Well, yeah.
I thought poems have to rhyme. I don't know.
Depends on the kind of poem, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, I didn't go to college. I was a JW. So, yeah.
You know, I got into it with, I love listening to Vivian and David Aspinall.
Okay.
They're former witnesses with this tremendous library, and they read chapters to me and stuff. But I said to them one day on a message, I said, well, you know, I think Big J might be the demiurge. And they said no. But the older I get, because I was born in, the older I get, I feel like maybe he is, because we gave him our youth, our time. The young men gave him the best years of strength and earning power. We gave so much, and what did we get?
Well, not much,
So
Pixie.
I'm with you on the idolatry thing.
Well, good. In fact, I'll tell you what, we got a lot of people came in tonight. They still want to come in. But we're going to go to the duck game. Going to go to the duck game. I got people that saying, Rick, we want to go to the duck game. So let's go to the duck game. Now, I want to thank, first of all those people that came in tonight. We appreciate you all talking together with us here tonight. But let's go to the duck game. Now, folks, you can win some prizes. We've got some people very close to $100. You can win that tonight. But I want you to go in the honor system. What we're going to do is ask you some questions about the Watchtower. Now, what you'll do is you'll have to get a point. You'll get a point if you answer it right. You have to go in the honor system and keep the point. And let me know. Just take notes, okay? 1 point, 2 point. If you get 5 points, you can get one of our books that Jim Hill out of Washington State sends us. You know the books. They're really nice. We'd love to send you one. Or if you get 12 points, I think we have some people approaching that. You can win $100. I'll send you a check. So anyways, I have some music. We're going to play some Jeopardy music. And when the music stops, I'll ask you the question, play the music. When the music stops, you're going to come in and voice a number, speak out a number 11, number 5. And then I can hear that through all the commotion. And I hope to get you on first. So let's take a look. Let me get my glasses on here so I can see what's going on. So let's ask the first question in the duck game tonight. Let's see how good you guys are with your Watchtower trivia. So let's go over here. Let me find it. Okay. This is the first question. Now, don't answer until the music stops. Explain the twisted Watchtower doctrine of war strategy. Can someone come in when the music stops and tell me war strategy, what is it? Hold on 1 second.
One, seven, seven, seven.
I've got, I think one was first. Is that you, Zach? Is that you, Zach?
Yes, yes. So war strategy, also known as theocratic tactics, it's where you don't tell the truth to someone who does not deserve the truth. It's where you're allowed to twist facts to mislead someone who wants to harm a witness. For example, if a person has a reversible jacket that's black on one side and green on the other side, and the police are looking for a person, they say, "Did you see a person with a green jacket?" You can say, "No, I saw a person with a black jacket." It's where you don't tell the truth to someone who, in your opinion, does not deserve to hear the truth.
Wow, you nailed it, Zach. You nailed it really well. Good for you. So how many points you got now? You're going to take a point on that one.
Yeah, I have 18 points.
Okay, you hold on to them. All right. You're doing good. All right, here's another question. All right, everyone get ready. Don't answer till the music stops. An old term for Jehovah's Witnesses with the earthly hope. What were they called? Today they're called the great crowd. What's the old term before the great crowd? Let's play the music.
One.
Zach, I'll tell you, you are getting to be the real champion here. I only hear you. No one wants to take a shot at it. What is it, Zach?
Okay. Also known as other sheep which are not of this fold, and initially the great multitude.
Well, you took a shot, but you missed it. You really missed it. I'll tell you. Anyone want to take a shot at it? Anyone want to take a shot? All right. I'll read it to you again. An old term for Jehovah's Witnesses with the earthly hope, they were called.
One.
Let Dallas take a shot at it. Dallas, what do you think?
The other flock.
The other flock?
No.
One.
Let's go. Hold on, Zach. We get some other people. I just want to take a shot at it. Who wants to take a shot at it? Someone said, "Can you hear me, Rick?" Who said that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, Rick?
Yes.
The Jonadabs.
You got it. Who is this?
Yeah.
Who is this? Who is it?
Brian. Jonadabs.
Brian. You're not the Brian out of Canada, are you?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah, Brian.
Oh, you don't sound like Brian. You sound different to me, Brian. All right, good. Well, thank you, Brian.
It's Jonadabs or Jehonadabs.
You got it. You got it. Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming in. So take a point. Give yourself a point. Excuse me.
So what have I got? Is that 1 point for that?
You got 1 point for that, but you have to stay on the honor system. If you get 12 points, you get $100.
Okay. Well, Zach said.
So ignore me. I just
Yeah.
Zach said 18 already.
But it's okay. Go ahead. Take your point.
I don't know. I bow out, I guess. Don't know how I can never catch up to him.
Oh.
Give it another shot, though.
Okay, stay with us. Here's the next question.
I think when Zach gets 100 points, he gets the car.
All right. Here we go. Here's the next question. Every Jehovah's Witness is called a, don't answer till the music stops.
One. Oh, sorry. One.
Seven.
Well, I got to go with one. Zach is really eating up the tar here tonight. Go ahead, Zach. What?
No, wait a minute. No, four.
A minister. No, I said it again after stop.
All right.
Nope.
Not it. Not what I'm looking for.
Seven.
Seven. Go ahead. Seven. Seven. Go ahead.
Unpaid volunteer in the Order of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Good guess. Very good guess, Stefan. But now every Jehovah's Witness is called a. Is that you, Nadine?
A pain. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Every Jehovah's Witness is called what? 8. Go ahead, 8. Someone just said it. Who said that?
A publisher.
Is that you, Brian?
Brian.
All right. Take another point. You got it.
Publisher.
You got it. All right.
Hang on. What's the rule? How do the rules work out? How do you?
Okay. Here's what happens.
When the
At the end of every one of our JW World News, what it is I ask a question, and then whoever answers the question gets a point. But you have to put it in your own honor system. You mark it down. When you get 5 points, you get a book.
So how do you know who to choose when we start?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, Brian. What you do? What they do is they call out a number. They call out a number. Then I hear the number. Then you choose. All right. Let me just make sure here. All right. Can everyone hear me out there? Yeah. Okay. Well, hello. Can I guess you? Okay. I'll be right back with you. Got to redial again. Hold on, folks. We're going to redial again. Our phone system goes out every 6 hours.
Welcome to My One Number. If you are the host, press star now. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. If you do not know your PIN, your input is invalid. You entered 19919. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. Your input is invalid. You entered 1. Muted.
Hi, Susan.
That was Zachary.
Hi, Susan.
Oh, yes.
No, it's okay.
Your input is invalid. Thanks.
Almost done. I can hear redialing on the computer.
Okay. I don't know if anyone can hear me
I
now.
don't know if you heard me, Susan, but I said when Zach gets to 100 points, he's going to get a car.
I had to say,
Hold on, folks. We'll be right with you if you're listening on YouTube and Facebook. Our telephone systems go out every 6 hours, so that's what's going on here right now.
Welcome to My One Number.
We'll get it
if you
settled.
are the host, press star now. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. If you do, thank you. There are 12 participants in the conference. Recording did not start because your storage is full. Please log in and delete recordings or purchase more storage from your account.
He's really working hard on this.
Okay, I think you guys can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, we're back.
Yep.
What
Yeah, we
happens?
can hear you.
Okay, what happens is our telephone line here goes up. Our telephone line goes off every 6 hours, so that's what happens. So we got to get back in, redial it, and go through a whole program. But we're all set now. So let's get back to our question. All right.
So just a sec, Chris. So how do you buzz in? What do you do to buzz in?
All right. Well, what you do is,
You hit the button. And once you hit the button,
all right, what you do is when I ask the question, you listen to the music. When the music stops, then you call out your number. Just pick any number from 1 to 100, Brian. And then you say 77. And I'll say, okay, because I got right now probably a dozen people coming in at the same time. So I get the number, then that kind of helps me differentiate who it is. All right, so let's go down our list here. Let's see what else we get. Let's ask the next question. All right. When a Jehovah's Witness is publicly disciplined by the elders, what is that called?
Seven. 13. 7. 13.
I heard 2, I think, first. Who's number 2?
Yeah, that's me.
Is that you? Who's that? Who is this? Who's number 2?
Grow faith.
I'm sorry, go slow. What's your name?
Grow faith.
Grow faith. Okay, I'm sorry, grow faith.
Grow. Yeah.
All right, grow
Okay,
faith.
so it's public reproof.
Hold on one second. Let me go back. So the question was, let me go back to the questions here. So a Jehovah's Witness is publicly disciplined by the elders. What do you call that when that happens? Grow faith.
Public reproof.
You got to publicly reprove. You got to take a point. Thank you, Grow Faith. That's good. Thank you. All right. I'm good to have you in here with us tonight. All right, let's go to another one. All right, here's the next.
Quick question.
Yeah, good.
I know they switched the fellowship thing to remove, but public reproof is still the same.
Yes, it is. Yep. Yes, it is. Yep. To my knowledge, yes. All right.
Okay,
Here's the next question. A disfellowship person who wants to return to the organization would repent to the elders, and this repentance would get him back in. What do we call that?
Number 2.
7.
13.
7.
13.
13.
I've been hearing.
7.
I think I gotta. I think I gotta go with 1. Yeah, I think as much as I hate to, I think I have to do it.
I almost forgot the question. You call that reinstatement?
It's reinstatement. You got it, Zach. All right, take a point. Take a point. All right, let's go down to the next one. All right. All right. The Jehovah's Witness religion is referred to by the witnesses as the
One. 7. 7. 7.
I heard number 5. I heard number 5.
22.
I heard number 5.
No, I said 6, not 5.
Okay. So, all right, you have to shut the YouTube off in the background. I'm hearing my voice over. So the Jehovah's Witness religion is referred to by the witnesses as what? Someone take a stab. That's so easy. It's pathetic.
The truth.
The truth.
I'm 6.
It's the truth. I'm not going to give any points because it was just kind of open play there. Let's go with the next one. All right.
I thought it was Satan's
All right.
organization.
Now, if anyone gets this one, I'm going to give them 2 points. If anyone gets this next question, I'm going to give you 2 points. According to the November 1924 Golden Age, women are encouraged not to wear a certain hairdo. Yes, according to the 1924 Golden Age, women are encouraged not to wear a certain hairdo. because it could make a woman go bald, according to the golden age. So what hairdo style could women not have according to the 1924 golden age? 2 points if you get it.
One.
I'll go with one first. Is Zach again? He's out in the front. Go ahead, Zach.
I have no idea. A ponytail.
No, not a ponytail. Who?
Come on. 7.
Let's go. I'm sorry, there was a sister in there before you, Stefan. Who was that sister? Speak that number up loud so we can hear it. Was there a sister? What type of a hairdo did the golden age say you couldn't have? And I'm going to tell you why they said it. I mean, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging, but I'm going to tell you why they said it. It's kind of crazy, but we know the golden age had crazy stuff. It said that this type of a hairdo, see, they were explaining the human hair. They said a human hair is like a tube sealed at the free end. When the hair is cut, the oils which are in the life of the hair become dissipated. The reason why men grow bald so quickly is that they have their hair cut so frequently. So they're saying here that if you're a woman, it'd be best not to have this type of a hairdo. What type of a hairdo is it?
7.
Go ahead, 7. Go ahead, 7. Go ahead, 7.
Is it a pixie?
Well, it's not a pixie. Not a pixie.
1.
Go ahead, Zach.
4 boys. Okay. I really have no idea. Bob, a short haircut.
Well, you know something? You're absolutely right, Zach. It is a bob. Take 2 points.
2 points. You said 2 points.
Yeah, take 2. It's a bob. It's actually a bob here. Isn't that crazy, huh? That is absolutely nuts. But I mean, that's stuff that they had. It's nutty stuff. Well, let's see. Maybe we get. Well, okay. Let's do one more, and then we'll let it go for that. So, anyways, here's the next question. The Watchtower suggested 72 years. Well, actually, more than that. But the Watchtower many years ago suggested that Jehovah's divine throne was located on what star cluster? We know the star. Hold on 1 second. What star was Jehovah the divine throne located on, and what cluster? Here we go.
One, 7.
I heard 2. I heard 2.
Yeah.
Is that you?
Grow faith again.
Well, grow faith.
I think it's by leader.
I'm going to give it to you. Now, that was the star cluster, because maybe I'm getting, that was the star cluster. So there was also, there was a star, and now there was the cluster was Pleiades, but I'm going to give grow faith a point anyways, because you got that.
Thank you.
And if someone can name the star, go ahead. Number 1. No, not 1. I think I heard.
Serious.
I'm sorry, you said, Zach, what'd you say?
Serious.
No, not serious. What star was the divine throne according, well, it was actually, going way back. Charles Taze Russell was the one that actually thought this. What's the name of the star? Begins with an A. Begins with an A. Alcyon. I'm surprised no one knew that. Zach, I thought I thought that was hands.
I knew Pleiades.
Yeah.
I was going to guess. I didn't know it. I was going to guess that.
Yeah.
Pleiades for the club.
Yeah. Well, that's Sister Grow Faith. Boy, she got a couple. That's good. Well, I'm glad she was in there playing with us today.
Thank you very much.
Are you from England? Are you from England, Grow Faith?
No, I'm not. I'm from Canada.
Oh, Canada, because you do have an English accent. Well, thank you, Grow Faith. I see you in there listening quite a bit. Thank you for coming on, listening, and playing tonight. Thank you. All right. So anyways, folks, hey, I had fun. Did you guys have fun tonight? I had fun. But we're going to be back tomorrow for those that are interested. We do a 6-screen Sunday. Now, Sunday, we take on a different way of doing business here at the 6 Screens. We get into theology. We get into scriptures. We don't do it on Saturday night. But, if you're a witness, you got to have some questions, right? So why don't you join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock? Beginning at 1 o'clock, we have a program called Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower. We have 2 Christian apologists, Jody and Scott. They come on. They got a great program. And then at 2 o'clock, we have a program with Anne Marie once again. And Wendy Tucker will be on tomorrow with as well. And that program is called Jehovah's Witnesses Share Their Story of Being in the Watchtower. And then at 3, we do JW World News, Sunday edition. And then, of course, at 4, we do the Christian Court. In the world of Christianity, people have peculiar questions, and they get answered here on the court. So check that out tomorrow, 4 o'clock. And then if you have a Bible question, well, we have a man that was one time associated with the Watchtower Writing Department. His name is Jay Hess. He'll be here tomorrow, and he'll be answering your Bible questions. So, friends, I want you to keep standing tall. I don't want you to ever give in or give up or give out. I want you to never let your visions die. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Hey, thank you for sharing the evening with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, before you go for the night.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Rick.
Brian, yes.
Rick.
Yeah. I'm here. Go ahead, Brian.
So you're shutting down for the night?
Shutting down for the night. Yep. Yeah. It's we don't go all night long like we used to. But I'll tell you what to do. Pasta Babe, she one time was on this program. She has her own program. It's a spin-off. Go look up Pasta Babe she's on YouTube and Facebook. You look her up, and that's where a lot of people go at night. She used to do the show on here, but now she's doing it herself out of Los Angeles. So that's the place to go. Thank you, Brian, though, for coming in. Good to hear from you, Brian. Always good to hear from you. I love to hear from you. Thank you. Everyone, good night, and thank you for sharing the night with us. Good night, everyone.